Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Slice of Gaming podcast, episode 91 for March 29th, 2025. Got a very special episode today, a good amount of news, some predictions for the final Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. Well, not the final. We are going to go over the final Nintendo Direct for the Switch 1 and then do our predictions for the Switch 2 presentation. That's happening in about 5 days, so a lot of excitement in the air there. And with me today, I got a very esteemed group of people to kind of talk about all the news and predictions of today. First and foremost, I want to shout out my man, Fusion.
Hey, I love the direct. Just putting that out there first and foremost, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm also joined by good friend Bench.
Hello, I'm here to talk all things Nintendo because they're the goats.
And then I finally want to introduce my boy, Jackie G.
I know we're all big fans of No Sleep for Konami Date or whatever it was called, so I just had to be here to rep it.
Man, we'll talk about it. If you guys want to find us, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever your favorite podcast platforms are. We're going to be there. Like the podcast, any type of support helps, and follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at A Slice of Gaming. But with that, I think we should get right into it. Boys, there was a Nintendo Direct this week. Effectively, the day before they announced it, and they were like, hey, this is going to be a Switch 1 Direct focused on Switch 1 news. And for the very last time ever, we saw there will be no mention of the Switch 2 in this presentation. It's like, oh, damn. Okay. This is going to be a really cool feeling, honestly, to basically see the last time we ever see that specific notion. But yeah, I mean, just top level thoughts. I guess I'll start. This was fine. This very much felt like a situation where they had some third party obligations and they were like, okay, we might as well throw in some like Nintendo games in there that couldn't fit into the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct because that most likely is going to be very jam packed and like not a lot of space. I will say, it was very frustrating that the two Nintendo games that were here are 2026, so it's at the point of like, why even show them? And everything else is just like, for me personally, there just wasn't enough. There wasn't really a lot for me. I always come out of these presentations of like, oh yeah, I expect like one or two things to kind of appeal to me, but it's like I only really got like one game that kind of does anything for me personally. So yeah, I'd probably give it around like a 5 out of 10, just perfectly average. It's whatever. Not much to really go off of there. Jack, I want to get to you. I know you're actually a bit higher on this one.
Yeah, I am. I was a bit disappointed that it didn't happen in February because I thought, oh, we're not going to get another Switch 1 Direct. But when the rumors started circulating about this one, it was like, oh, this is cool. The thing I wanted most from this was weird stuff. I just wanted weird games for the Switch 1 because that's usually when they start putting them out right at the end of the generation. And we got them. So I find it hard to be disappointed personally from this, especially when we didn't even know it was going to happen. The only thing I will say is there was a lot of stuff we were expecting to be here, like Fire Emblem and Kirby, and the fact it wasn't was very bizarre. But yeah, regardless, I enjoyed this. I don't know what score I would give it. I liked it a lot.
That's fair. Yeah, no, it's definitely a case of like what you said. The weird thing is like, yeah, that does usually tend to happen near the end of the generation. I just wish like said weird things weren't dated for an entire year past this. Bench, I want to ask you, what's kind of your top level thoughts?
I'm definitely more in line with you, Wolf. Probably around that 6 out of 10, and only if it's only getting that other 1 point bump because of Tomodachi Life. But yeah, just definitely you could tell they had some obligations, and maybe they even wanted to line it up closer to the Switch 2 Direct because they know it'll probably be a little more disappointing for most people. So you have something to look forward to less than a week after that disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's hard to really be that upset about this considering like we're getting another presentation in less than a week. So it's kind of how I feel really. What about you, Fusion?
You left the real Nintendo fan for last.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, this is. I'm just, to be honest, Nintendo Directs up to this point are never my thing. I'm mainly there to see if Silksong shows up. It didn't. Like, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna say the Direct was bad because Silksong didn't show up. But outside of Metroid, there was not a single game here that I cared about. But I was expecting that, so my expectations were like going into this thinking it was going to be a 5, and that's probably what it was, a 4 to 5 to me. Like, I'm not in the Nintendo fan base as of right now. I want to get into it more when the Switch 2 comes out. And this was kind of like end of the life cycle. We have a lot of partnerships that we have to put out there. Let's just get this out so next week could be a really hype event. I think it was okay at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think we actually shared the same game that we cared about with Metroid, which, I mean, I'll talk about. I was very, very excited for just seeing here, but also very confused. We'll get into that. I guess, I mean, we could talk about basically highlights. We don't need to talk about all this. Shoutouts to Jack, by the way. He put everything in kind of a spreadsheet. Not a spreadsheet. He just typed it all out for me so that we can kind of get everything right here. He did put them in UK dates, though, which always fucks with my brain. I do want to point out we did start with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake, which, listen, these games look great. It's weird to show it off as the first thing to start the direct and not even a date.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, I think no date was definitely like weird because I mean it can't have been that much more work to do on it. At least that's what I think. But hopefully, I guess maybe they're hoping for that June date, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of my expectation. Is maybe they're holding off on the date until the Switch 2 presentation. But then it's like, why even show it here? It's just a weird choice. I will say they're apparently adding a new character to Dragon Quest 2, which is kind of weird. But also, it's like there's really not much to go off on the trailer. It's like, yeah, it still looks good. And then I want to shout out 2 games in particular I want to point out next, which are very weird. Patapon 1+2 replay and Everybody's Hot Shot. Wait, hang on. It's like a weird ass name. I'm trying to find it. Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. They actually combined the Japanese name and the American name, which is really funny. But yeah, Everybody's Golf Hot Shots and Patapon 1+2 replay. These are PlayStation IPs. Effectively, these are games that came out on like PSP for Patapon and then like pretty much all consoles for Hot Shots Golf. And now we got the case of like, hey, we're bringing them now to Switch. And interestingly enough, this is Bandai Namco publishing, which they also published the Freedom Wars Remastered. I mean, Jack, we were talking about this. It's like, this is really weird, but also pretty exciting when you think about it. It's like PlayStation isn't doing anything with these IPs. You might as well put them on other platforms.
Yeah, I it's just odd. Like, Freedom Wars never felt like it was going to be like setting the standard for anything. It was just like, oh, Freedom Wars. I guess that makes okay, sure.
Yeah.
But like these ones, this is really interesting. Like Everybody's Golf. I know it doesn't have much name cachet nowadays, but it was a long-running PlayStation franchise. And like now, like what? Now you think what's coming next? Like, are they going to release Fat Princess? Are they going to release Gravity Rush? It's just
Gravity
weird,
Rush
and
is sick. That
Yeah.
makes way more sense on Nintendo, honestly.
with the movie coming up as well, everyone's
Nah.
excited for that.
Yeah, there's that movie.
But yeah, it's really bizarre to see them, and like Sony's not even publishing them on their own console. Bandai's still doing that. It kind of reminds me of like what Sega was doing, like with Streets of Rage and Panzer Dragoon remake, just sort of giving the IPs to other people and just letting them deal with it. But
Yeah.
it's fascinating. I'm just a bit conflicted on it, I suppose.
Yeah, it is weird for the golf game, Everybody's Golf. That's gonna be not developed by the original developers. I think they're called Clap Hands, which is interesting. That's one of those cases where it's like, I don't know why you wouldn't get the original developers for it. Hopefully it works out because I know people really, really love it. Because that's a whole new game. Patapon is just 1+2, which were already remastered on PlayStation. But like with this golf game, it's like, no, this is straight up like a brand new game in the franchise, which that's actually very exciting. Fusion, I think we both agree on this. Like, we kind of want PlayStation to be a little more bullish on like their IP. And it's like, yeah, just release them onto these other platforms if you're not doing anything with them, especially when it comes to your family-friendly stuff.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier where it's like, I understand PlayStation, they love exclusives, and I get it. But like, I think specifically your family-friendly stuff they would do so well on Nintendo that you're like missing the mark by not releasing it. Even if it's not day and date, like it might not ever come day and date, but things like this where just out of nowhere the Nintendo Switch gets ports and you can hopefully get a couple million more sales because Nintendo Switch fans would eat up things like Ratchet and Clank and Astrobot wouldn't. I don't think Astrobot would ever come, but something of that genre where it's like Sackboy, something like that, where you could throw these on the Nintendo Switch and get more revenue in, so PlayStation can continue to make their big budget games, but also be able to release these smaller titles and feel comfortable doing so because smaller budgets and hopefully a lot more on return when you're not just locking up behind the PlayStation fan base. Because at the end of the day, PlayStation fans will show up for things like Astrobot, but not every PlayStation fan is going to show up for like a family-friendly, non-big, like a platformer or something, where Nintendo Switch fans will constantly show up for that thing. That's why they mainly have that system, is for these platformers, for these family-friendly stuff. So if you're aiming for these smaller titles to be able to get like more out of it, I think it would be perfect to release them on a Switch 2, hypothetically, down the line.
100%. Yeah, it's like you might as well, since effectively you're just not doing anything with these IP. It's like give them a second life, give them a second opportunity to kind of find a new audience, because I think the Nintendo audience, we've seen a lot of the time with like Nintendo Switch game sales of like how heavily like you kind of look at the comparison of like, oh, this is what this franchise did on Wii or GameCube, and this is how it did on Switch with a new entry. And like the Switch version is always like exponentially bigger. I mean, it happened with Xenoblade, it happened with Pikmin. This is the type of thing where it's like you put something on Switch, people just like that idea of portability so much that they just buy stuff, especially near launch window. So yeah, I'm right there with you. It's just like might as well like be more open to that type of thing. I want to move into. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jack.
No, I just wanted to point out it's weird that Sony hasn't even commented on these. Like they're not even on the PlayStation Twitter page that they're releasing or anything. They've just sort of like the only two games from the Direct that they've mentioned are Shadow Labyrinth with its new date and Monument Valley 3. But they haven't commented on anything else.
Yeah, that's weird. It almost feels like. Do you think it's like a kind of like embarrassment? It's like we don't want people to know we're like associated with these games that were originally like exclusive.
Maybe, and like I don't know if they ever said anything about Freedom Wars either. So maybe it is just a thing of they are fully like it's just Bandai. Bandai's the only one doing anything here. PlayStation's just like, yeah, sure, you can have the IP.
This was kind of a question that was circulated around. Who do you think approached who? Because like Bandai Namco has done all of these so far. Do you think it was Bamco wanting to utilize these IP and asking PlayStation, or other way around?
A bit of both. Like maybe Sony was looking out and seeing if any other publishers wanted to publish them, and Bamco was just like right there.
Yeah, Bamco's got nothing else better to do. It's like, I might as well. I respect it. Let's move into the two Nintendo releases. First and foremost, Rhythm Paradise. Damn it, now you got me saying Rhythm Paradise. Rhythm Heaven Groove, from dated for 2026. I want to mention the 2026 of it all in a bit. And then also Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. I guess I'll talk about Rhythm Heaven first. I played a little bit of the DS one and had a ton of fun, but like it's always a franchise that felt like it was on hiatus for a long time for like weird reasons. And then we learned apparently it was due to the composer having cancer, and he had to have like one of his vocal cords removed. And I guess like he recently recovered, so it's a case of like, okay, now we can get him back into Rhythm Heaven and get this franchise back. And I'll be honest, I didn't think this would ever come back, Jack. I'll be real. So the fact that it is able to come back is very exciting, and I know people really, really love these games.
Yeah, it's just cool to see them, I suppose. Tomodachi Life especially has like such a massive cult following, and like we were like looking last night about the sales of the game, and it's like massive. It's more than any Metroid, more than any Kirby game. So it does make sense.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it's like Tomodachi Life on 3DS sold like 8 million copies, and that fan base is extremely passionate. I mean, like to this day, like I see people like talking about Tomodachi Life constantly.
Yeah.
I haven't played it. Have any of you?
Yes, I've played it for like 50 hours. It's very
Oh
good.
my god,
50 hours.
That is a shock out of nowhere.
It's like a childhood nostalgic type game for me. So I have very fond memories of playing it on 3DS, and I'm very hyped for just the weirdness that'll ensue when it drops next year.
Well, I'll expose myself. I had no idea this franchise existed until yesterday.
Damn, Fusion.
No idea. Could not
I
tell
don't.
you.
It's not really relevant outside of the 3DS, but like that 3DS game was so popular that like people really, really loved it.
It's
And to this
just
day,
so
like we're
weird.
begging for a new one.
It's
It does it.
so yeah.
It does a text to speech, which is really fun. So like I'll always just see like random memes of like people like singing some stupid song that they made through text to speech. It's like that's cute. That's really fun. But it's not my type of game. But I know it's like gonna be pretty major hit, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
definitely going to be there, and it's just something that I'm glad they're investing in because it is just so weird and out there.
I want to move into Metroid Prime 4. We got another look at this game, interestingly enough. No date, which I kind of have a theory why there was no date. But we got a bit of gameplay. They showed off kind of Samus how she's just a Jedi now, which is very funny. And she can open doors with her Jedi powers. I just found that like a really cool headline out of all this. Got box art. I mean, listen, I love Metroid Prime, and I looked at this. It's like, yeah, it's more Metroid Prime. This is exactly my speed. I'm so down. Fusion, I'm surprised. Like you said that you were interested in this game. Like, did this trailer do much?
Yeah, I've never played a Metroid game, so like I'm not like too familiar with the franchise. I know people love the Prime remaster, um, but I was surprised. I don't know. I just was surprised with, for one, visually, I thought it was pretty impressive for being on Switch
Very
hardware.
impressive.
Like
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't look like. Obviously, it's not today's standard, but it's not like this doesn't look like a 2017 Switch game. You know what I mean? Like it looks like
Mhm.
really good for what it's on. So like I was impressed with that, and just I don't know, it looked like I like first-person shooters, and I thought at the end of the day, it just looked fun. Like shooting the aliens they were shooting, and like you said, the abilities where they were like solving the puzzles with the abilities. I thought like
Yeah.
I could see why people like the franchise, and it's like I was theorizing like, oh, this would be really fun with the mouse mechanics on the
Dude,
Switch too,
yes.
and like use that because I feel like it would be a great way to show off the Switch 2 new mouse mechanics with a game like this. And it's like that gets me excited to test that out if that is a feature they're actually going to use.
Yeah, no, I will say go into it with less with the expectations of like a pure first person shooter, like a Call of Duty or something. More like a first person exploration based shooter. Like it's more like you're exploring, scanning, like looking around with like very fun combat, but nothing like Call of Duty style first person shooting. But yeah, no, I mean like it very much does look like a Metroid Prime game, and what you said about the visuals, it's like, yeah, it's extremely impressive. Retro Studios kind of can't really do wrong when it comes to the visual standpoints of their games.
I definitely hope there is a Switch 2 version of some sort.
I mean, we can get into that right now. It was interesting. They put out a pure 2025 date. Do you guys think like, hey, we're gonna see this at the presentation next week? Like this is kind of my prediction of like we see it at the presentation next week. That's when we get the date, and it's gonna be at launch. And that's why they couldn't say the date now because, well, the Switch 2. Like we can't reveal the date of the Switch 2 or even cause any conversation around that.
I think it would make sense, like logically. I know, but like I don't know this. I think that makes the most sense. But also, there was a lot of games in this direct. I feel like they didn't put a date on. Like I thought it was weird that Pokemon showed up again, and they were like showed Pokemon off, and then they were just like still 2025. Like I could definitely see it more with Metroid being like, hey, this is a Switch 2 release, like launch title, because we've been hearing rumors about that for a while now, and like people have been speculating that. So it would make sense that some of these games do get crossover and we see them next week, and like Metroid out of the whole direct probably makes the most sense. To be like, hey, we're gonna show you now this on the Switch 2, and here's the date, blah blah blah, and they go through that. And I think that would be I think that would build up hype for like the Metroid's marketing cycle.
Yeah.
And
Do you
I,
guys?
I
Sorry,
have
Ben.
like one of my predictions will align with kind of what I think Switch 2 edition stuff will be, but I don't think we see like a new trailer for Prime 4. I think it might be in a sizzle reel with Switch 1 games running on Switch 2. But after this, it showing up in this direct, I'm not sure it's going to be marketed as like a Switch 2 game, even if it is around launch.
Yeah, I think you might have a point there. And I also wonder if Nintendo's paranoid that it would get overshadowed in the Switch 2 presentation,
That's
because
true.
otherwise,
Yeah.
why would you show it this week? It just Like, if you want to wait and show the date next week, then why even bother with this trailer? Unless you are worried that, yeah, no one's going to talk about Metroid Prime 4 next week when 3D Mario might be there.
It almost feels like they're really wanting to like very heavily market this game. I mean, this game has been in development for a long time, and even for Nintendo budget standards, it's probably very expensive. And it's like we want to make sure we get our return on this game. We want to make sure this is the best-selling Metroid game because this is a franchise that doesn't necessarily sell the best usually. And they want to see like, okay, can we try to like if we put a bunch of marketing dollars into this, get it into multiple presentations, and like really market it around like Switch 2 being a launch title, having a version, all that, maybe then we can try to get our money back on this game. We will see. I'm very, very excited for Metroid Prime 4, though. I want to check out Metroid Prime 3 soon. I will say, no Metroid Prime 2 and 3 ports, which I feel like was almost a shoo-in, but I guess not. And we could actually talk about like what wasn't here real quick of Zelda ports. Kid Icarus, which that was more of a Switch 2 thing, if anything. Was it Kirby Planet Robobot? And Jack, we were talking about this. It's like almost like we always go into like, oh, this direct's going to be small, so just expect ports and remasters because it's near the end of the Switch. And now I'm starting to think like maybe the ports and remasters are when we expect big because like they tend to just have a bunch of random new games that they have ready to show off randomly.
Yeah, I'm certainly not complaining because like I'm never that interested in ports. I am gutted that there's no Zelda ports because like, yeah, we need them. But at this point, I don't even know if they're real. They're finished. Whether they're ever going to release, who knows? But
it just feels like such an easy marketing beat. It's like, hey, here's these games again, $60. You'll play them. It's like that's gonna sell.
I mean, we'll get into it later. But the only thing I can think is like they need a Zelda thing on Switch 2, and that will be cross-gen. But yeah, Planet Robobot's weird because like we've been hearing that's coming out like within the next few months, and that feels like a perfect Switch 1 game. Fire Emblem, sure, you could that could be there next week. That makes sense. And then just be cross-gen. But yeah, it's just weird. Like especially like Moon was saying, why even bother showing the 2026 games if you still have 2025 games for the Switch 1? It's just bizarre.
100%. I just don't really understand the idea of it, but I don't think I'll ever understand the idea of Nintendo stuff. Just some random things I want to shout out. Pokemon, you mentioned that earlier, Fusion, but like they showed it off a bit. No date. I will say, I'm into the idea of like the nighttime, like kind of Z to A battling system. That sounds really fun, but I am like of the mind of like I want to see some megas because like we know there's gonna add new megas. It's like I want to see those.
Agreed.
And then from there, I guess. Oh, Marvel Cosmic Invasion. That's gonna be .emu. That game looks awesome. I'm not really the biggest Marvel fan, but I am into just like that art style and what .emu has been able to do. They're the TMNT Shredder's Revenge developers. So just like straight up like having like a Marvel beat 'em up in that style is like, yeah, that feels like such an easy shoe-in, if I'm being honest. And then oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna agree with you. I think that looks really cool, that one.
And then last thing, it's just no. Raito Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army. I just thought this was interesting. This is a PS2 game that Atlas released all the way back in like 2006, and I think it had a Western release, but it's like super expensive. And this is kind of like a full-on remake from the ground up. It looks like, and I like when Atlas kind of revisits their earlier titles. It is a thing of like, it's really cool that you're remaking it, Atlas. You could have just ported it. Like, there's a lot of games with Atlas where it's like, just port them. Like, it feels weird that's like, because they have so many other games. It's like, this is the one that gets a remake. But I've heard this is like kind of a more action-focused SMT game, and people are really into it. So I just wanted to shout that out. Anything else you guys want to shout out, or is that it for the direct?
I've got a couple of things. Oh, go on.
Go for it.
Shadow Labyrinth unsold me.
Oh, dude, I've been unsold. That game's ugly as shit.
I was about to say I'm excited now that it's July. That's awesome.
Oh, my bad. That was aggressive.
Yeah, it just looks weird, edgy. I like it.
It just has like this like I don't know how you but like kind of this puppet rig animation style that I'm not a big fan of, where it's like you can kind of tell like like the characters look like they're like puppeted or something. I don't know how you explain it, but like I never liked how it looked. It always looked off to me.
That's
But
fair. I'm into it.
I get your excitement though. I do like the idea of it being like a Pac-Man Metroidvania that you could fuse with them. It's like that's cool. And also, actually, I just remembered Eternal Life of Goldman. I actually wanted to shout out where you're the old man with the cane, very DuckTales inspired. Dude, that game looks amazing, like visually. Like they have this really beautiful 2D hand-drawn style, and it's like, yeah, that's one I want to put on my list. I'm very interested in that one. But Jack, you had a couple games you want to shout out?
Yeah, well, that was one of them, and the other one I think that's just cool is Gradius Origins.
Yeah.
Konami just put out the Castlevania DS collection and just included a full remake of Haunted Castle, and now they're doing a Gradius collection with a full brand new game, Salamander 3. And I just respect that more than anything. Just the idea of just like, oh, we could release a new Gradius game, but we'll just throw it in a collection.
No, dude, Konami's been nailing their collections lately. I mean, like you bring up that Castlevania DS collection, like I've been like loading it up recently. It's like, damn, dude, they really did go above and beyond for this thing. Like shout outs to Konami. This year's looking very strong for Konami, and I'm very excited to kind of stick with them.
Oh, there was two things we didn't actually mention that was also in the direct. I didn't put them on my list, but
the
I
non-game
suppose
thing, yeah. I was gonna save those for last.
Oh, fair enough. Go ahead.
Okay, so the first one was the virtual game cards. It's Steam, it's game sharing, but they explained it in the most Nintendo way ever, where to the point of being confusing. When it's literally just you could share your games with people. Not something that applies to me or I think any of us really. I might be wrong, but if you have like multiple Switches, if you have a family, like it's really good for like kids and whatnot. It's just I'm alone, so
yeah. I don't have kids or anyone right now, but in the future, this will save me some money.
2042 about to be a movie, man.
Yep.
And then final thing was Nintendo Today. Listen, man, there's a lot here. So it's effectively their news app that they're going to basically be updating every day and having like little bulletin board posts and talking about stuff. They did mention at one point it's like they're gonna have like news every day for the Switch 2, which is really interesting. Kind of reminds me of Super Smash Bros. Brawl with the Brawl Dojo, where it's like, oh, maybe there's actually gonna be some substantial updates. And I will say, this was really interesting. Today they announced the date for the Legend of Zelda movie. What was it, March 27th, 2027? They only did that on Nintendo Today. I checked their Twitter; they didn't even mention it there. So it almost feels like a case of like Nintendo almost wanting to distance themselves away from social media, or at the very least, like they'll do their big stuff there, but like, you know, they want to try to like prioritize this app in case like more shit happens to Twitter or Blue Sky or any other social media platform in the future.
I think this is very sensible. Like, Twitter is, well, Twitter. We all know what's. Yeah, it's gone downhill. But like, obviously with the Switch, they used to have the sharing thing where you could just share your stuff to Twitter, and they removed that, and just one by one features of sort of. It does feel like they're wanting to distance it themselves from it. So this makes a lot of sense, and obviously a lot of announcements that Nintendo does are just Twitter drops, as we always call them. So yeah, this is sensible.
Yeah, it's not like a negative in any way. It just feels like a funny thing to end the direct on. Because, I mean, like, oh, fuck, I always forget his name. But the guy, he transitioned over to Miyamoto, and it was like, oh, Mario Movie 2, theme parks. Like, what's he going to talk about? And it's like, we have a new app. It's like, oh, okay. The most Nintendo thing ever. But hey, that's why I like him.
What's funny is that I thought he was going to come on and talk about the Zelda movie's release date, and then they were just like, nah, we'll save that for tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. It's very funny. I appreciate it. But yeah, Nintendo Today. It's like, I downloaded it. I mean, it's nice. I got a Pikmin wallpaper out of it, so that works out. But outside of that, it's like, there's not much to it. But yeah, that's the Nintendo Direct. We're gonna be talking more about Nintendo later on in the show. But for now, it's like like we said, it's average, but this is the appetizer. You know, this is the appetizer. We got the main course next week. We're gonna talk all about that later on today. But let's move into our next story. We're going into the realm of Sony. God of War side story game reportedly set for this year. Jordan Midler has this at VGC. A new God of War project set in Greece is coming this year. It's claimed. Rumors have circulated for some time about a remastered collection of God of War titles set for this year, timed for the franchise's 20th anniversary. Now, Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb has claimed that a new God of War side story project set in Greece is coming this year. The first several entries in the series were set out in Greece. Yeah. Backstory that we already know. But Grubb actually blue skied this. Okay, everyone keeps asking about this, so I've tried to find out more. There's still a Greek God of War thing coming out this year, but it's not a remaster collection. It's a new side story project. I was never told about a remaster collection, but I asked a source about the rumors that I saw were focused on a collection, and they told me that nothing God of War would happen at the State of Play, but something could show up at the anniversary. And there was something at the anniversary. It was the Dark Odyssey collection, which I think is where a lot of the collection part wires got crossed over there. It is interesting. We've been talking about like a God of War side story game for a while, Fusion, of like, hey, they're going to do something like an Atreus side game or a Greek side game, or it's a collection. I will be honest, if I'm being completely real, a new God of War game set in Greece, I think I would have just preferred the remasters. And that's not to say like, oh, I don't want new games, anything like that, but it's like, I still can't play God of War 1 and 2 on PS5. And like those are games I want to like replay all the time. It's like it's weird I have to bust out the PS3 to play those games. So I mean, Fusion, we were very much talking a lot about this. I don't know what your kind of main level thoughts are on this thing.
No, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, obviously, a side story related would be cool, but I was really hoping a collection was real because I haven't truly played a lot like the original God of War stuff. Like, I remember being a kid and going to my buddy's house, and like he always had the games, and like I'd watch him play. I'd play a few levels, but like I never got to sit there from start and finish and like beat those games. So like God of War collection, with all the rumors, I was getting more and more excited at the thought of, hey, this thing is real and we're gonna get it, and maybe we'll still get it because there's so many rumors out there. Like, there's nothing that says Santa Monica can't also be working on that, or someone else can't be working on that. So like that could still happen, and I hope it happens. If they gun to my head, they were like, you can either have this collection or the side story, I would also be in the camp of, hey, I would rather have the collection. Let me experience those games. But a side story is interesting at the same time. Like, is it going to be Atreus? Who knows? Like, is it Kratos centered? Like, we got those Atreus rumors, like you said. I feel like in 2023. Like, it was before TGA 2023 when they announced. Was it Valhalla? Was that year when they announced the Valhalla DLC?
It was one of the TGAs. I think it was 2020.
It was 2022.
Oh, yeah.
2023.
Oh, wait. For some reason, I thought Ragnarok came out in 2020. No, it was 2023. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, like, because I remember we got Atreus rumors, like, months leading up before that TGA, and then God of War showed up on screen, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Atreus thing's real. It ended up being the Valhalla DLC, which was still really good. Like, I really enjoyed that. But it's weird that we've had Atreus rumors all the way back 2+ years, and we've seen nothing of it, and then we have this thing coming out. This could be an Atreus thing, which I personally would rather prefer. I know, like, most people would not. I'm sure most people would just give us Kratos going back and whatever he's going to do in the side thing. But to me, I feel like this would be a perfect opportunity to do a Miles Morales type thing with Atreus, if that's the route they're going to go. I know we talked about personally, we want something completely different, like a 2D Metroidvania or something, like a Prince of Persia Lost Crown, but set in the God of War universe. Like, that's the type of side story I want from this. But if they're just going to give us a Miles Morales level thing, I'll still buy it. It would still be great. But I would rather Atreus than just give me Kratos for 10 hours at the end of the day, personally.
Let me sell you on the game. It's
Okay,
Atreus in Greece, finding out what happened after his dad left and what his dad did, seeing it firsthand. And learning more about Kratos' past.
See, that's the type of thing that's what I would want from this, is like Atreus going back and learning his dad's past compared to Kratos going back. Because I feel like Valhalla already did such a good job with Kratos coming to terms with his past and like him today. And I feel like him going back to Greece, it would still be interesting. It would still be some emotion there, but I feel like it would be way more emotional and impactful if Atreus went and he got to learn everything about his dad through that. And then it goes into the next trilogy, or it goes into the next 2 games, whatever they're going to work on after that, the big boys that they're going to come out in who knows how long. But like, I think that is way more interesting than let's just throw Kratos back there.
Yeah, I will say, Ben, the idea of like, oh, Atreus doing this, it's like, yeah, that sounds cool, but my thought process is, I want to play as Kratos. Like, I like it. I like Atreus, but it's like, Kratos is the guy with the axe and the swords. And it's like, that sounds way more fun than like shooting my bow.
But I think if you do play as Atreus, they would give him a melee weapon, like
Give him
something.
something.
I think like because
yes, knife.
spoiler alert, we're gonna spoil God of War 2018. I think everyone knows at this point. Like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not gonna spoil it because Jack's never played it. Never mind. But,
You never played God of War?
no, he's never played 2018, as far as I know.
Yeah, I've only played the first one.
Okay. Oh, you have? So you have played 2018?
No,
Or
no,
the
I mean
first
the
OG.
first one.
Okay, yeah.
You need,
So I'm
we
not
need
gonna
to get you
spoil
off
anything.
Assassin's Creed, man. You're missing so much good shit because of Assassin's Creed.
I'm busy.
The
Oh,
game's
cold.
8 years old. But like, I feel like if you do play the Trace, yeah, you're not just gonna be sitting there with a bow. Like, I feel like a bow would be a big part of it, but like, I feel like they would give him daggers or something related to his character, where it's like, it would make sense. They would make it more fun to play as Atreus, as in of you playing Atreus in God of War Ragnarok, which wasn't bad, but it was definitely not like as fleshed out as if he was the main character in the game.
100%. It feels like it's like if you're going to bring it back, you would try to do more. I just wonder how you market it because I'm of the mind that's like God of War isn't really God of War without Kratos, and I know a lot of people do, disagree, and a lot of people agree. It's like one of those things where it's like they haven't really tried a God of War without Kratos, so like maybe this would be the first one they try out. But also, it's like you can't really retire Kratos, the name or the character, because he's so recognizable.
Yeah, that's why personally, I'm like, I want a Metroid, like a 2D game from them so badly that I think it would just be so fun, and they can make it Kratos, whatever. Like, I just feel like going a completely different style would be so fun, and like it can have story, like the story can matter, and like the story might have some crossover, but like I feel like they just need a fun approach to God of War, and I feel like doing something like that probably gets a lot less pushback than if they were like, here's an Atreus game for 15 hours from the super hardcore fans that like Kratos so much.
Yeah, and I mean, like a Metroidvania in any style, it's like, fuck it, I'll play Atreus. I don't care. Dude, I'll play the freaking giant girl. Like, I don't care. Just give me a Metroidvania, God of War world. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's like, let's try out different things with this franchise. It doesn't just have to be a Miles Morales style, like, oh, you play as Atreus, and it's like kind of the same models and stuff. It's like, no, get weird, get different. You might as well. Moving into our next story, this is an interesting little wrinkle that happened yesterday. Ubisoft's $4 billion carve out sells Tencent a 25% stake in some of its biggest games. Emma Roth over at The Verge has this. Ubisoft is spinning off Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six into a subsidiary backed by Tencent, according to an announcement on Thursday. The Chinese gaming giant will invest 1.16 billion. What is that? What is that? C? Is that pounds?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well they put the
Euro.
American units.
Oh,
it's
Euro,
Euro.
yeah, duh.
Okay, 1.16 billion euros for a 25% stake in the carve out, which will have a total value of about 4 billion euros. Ubisoft says the new entity will include the teams working on all three franchises, along with the publisher's back catalog of games and new titles currently in development. It will work to improve the, quote, quality of narrative solo experiences, as well as, quote, expand multiplayer offerings with increased frequencies of content releases. Last year, Bloomberg reported that Tencent, which currently has a 10% stake in Ubisoft, was considering a buyout of the French game publisher. Very interesting story. It kind of seems like we talked a lot about this, of the idea of Ubisoft and Tencent kind of being acquired by that big Chinese gaming conglomerate. And it's like, oh, will Assassin's Creed Shadows be able to like delay the bleeding, delay the stopping of it all? Real quick, this did come out. Over 3 million players have played Assassin's Creed Shadows. The Assassin's Creed official Twitter account pointed that out, which, they even mentioned it's like second highest day one sales revenue in Assassin's Creed franchise history, just behind Valhalla, which, that's very big. That's massive. Like, it's done very well as a game. But I do think this kind of like shows it's like, yeah, it wasn't ever going to be enough, because at the end of the day, like, despite how incredibly this game is selling, it's not enough to kind of like stave off Tencent, slow Ubisoft's bleeding in any way. and this almost feels like kind of the first of many. Now, I will say it does seem farther from a buyout, and it seems like Tencent is almost like just poking their head into the door, seeing if they can kind of like get money out of it and figure out some way to like basically leech off Ubisoft as much as possible without having to fully acquire them. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on all this is. It's very businessy.
Yeah, personally, I mean, I don't see it as necessarily a bad thing. Like if this gives Ubisoft the revenue to keep afloat without having a full buyout, and they can share these IPs with Tencent, and these games can still be made, I think it's a win at the end of the day. You know, I feel like I'm sure layoffs will come at some point. Like this isn't going to be like a wholly positive story. I'm sure weeks, months from now, who knows, there'll be like a lot of layoffs at Ubisoft, and it'll be related to this story. But I don't think Tencent's as bad as maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Tencent's as bad as a publisher that we thought years ago. I feel like 3 to 5 years ago, everything like when you heard Tencent, you were like, oh, this whatever they're gonna do, it's gonna suck and it's gonna be awful. I feel like Tencent has gotten a lot better at like keeping their hands off of what they own and just letting devs do what devs want to do. So like them having a big buy into Ubisoft, I don't think at the end of the day will be a negative thing, but I'm also, like you said, it's a lot of business talk that's above our pay grade, so I couldn't sit here and directly tell you what's going to happen.
They're a very weird company. Like they kind of are like the shadowy, hey, we'll give you money, but like, you know, we expect returns of this magnitude, this amount. And there is the whole like Chinese government thing, like they are backed by the CCP, which is like a whole other can of worms that I don't even want to try to touch because I'm just not knowledgeable about that whole thing. There's weird aspects to Tencent. They're not exactly like clean hands, but I also am kind of with you, Fusion, I almost think we somewhat oversell the evilness of Tencent, where it's like, yeah, I don't like them, like most corporations, but at least in the terms of like pure like AAA publishing, when it comes to the games they publish like on a AAA level, not their mobile gotcha crap or anything like that, I don't really see like their negative influence seeping in, at least personally.
Like most people don't know, they fully own Riot Games. Like Tencent fully owns Riot Games, and I feel like you never hear anyone complain about that. But like Riot Games is still out there doing great things. So you know what I mean? Like Valorant's still awesome. Like all those things are awesome. So it's like I feel like I've never read an article once where it's like Tencent gets in the way of Riot Games. Like Riot Games is one of the premier devs in the industry. Granted, they're multiplayer stuff, but like League of Legends, all of that, like Riot Games does great under Tencent. So.
Oh, so we should disclose we are paid off by the CCP. Slice of Gaming is owned by Xi Jinping, so just wanted to make sure to get that out there. But yeah, really interesting development. It's gonna be something that we're gonna have to keep our eyes on for the rest of the year. Moving into our next stories from Push Square. It's a rumor, but like it's one of those things where like I normally wouldn't put this on the doc, but it feels like there was a lot of circulation around this, so I'm like, okay, I might as well mention it. Sammy Barker at Push Square wrote this. Speculation about a second Naughty Dog PS5 game starts to circulate. New speculation has started circulating about a second PS5 project from the first-party studio. The source seemed to stem from the entertainment insider Daniel RPK writing on his Patreon. The particular individual does have a track record when it comes to leaking information about movies, but his gaming credentials are less watertight. However, there's nothing really new here. Naughty Dog already said outright that it has, quote, more than one ambitious single-player game in development for the PS5, so this is not exactly a secret. In fact, if you trawl through the studio's enormous staff list on sites like LinkedIn, you'll quickly realize not everyone is working on Intergalactic. Daniel RPK adds that Uncharted Lost Legacy's Sean S. Kague is leading this second game, which makes sense as he returned to Naughty Dog after a brief hiatus at Crystal Dynamics to work as a creative director. I'll be honest, we're going from Naughty Dog and then you're going to downgrade to Crystal Dynamics is really funny to me. But yeah, this whole like second game situation, Fusion, you're the Naughty Dog guy. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. This is a weird one where it's like Daniel RPK, not really like as the article notes, like a source that's known for his video game insider takes. This is why I'm like, I don't know if this is like fully like backed. Like I'm waiting for like a Grub or a Schreier or someone of that caliber to kind of like point out. It's like, yeah, no, this is something that's like been in the known for a while. But the mentioning of the LinkedIn and like the director coming back, it's like there are some interesting wrinkles to all this that could lend credence to this rumor being true.
Yeah, it's like Naughty Dog is a big enough studio where this could easily be true. Granted, like you said, I don't think Daniel's the greatest like reputable leaker here. He's hit on some stuff. He hasn't hit on other stuff. He's mainly movies, film. He has a lot of crossover with Naughty Dog for whatever reason. Like he has done Naughty Dog stuff in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because I feel like it ramped up after HBO's Last of Us. But either way, like I could see this because Sean's been there for 3 years, like again, and it's like to me, Sean not someone that like works alongside on Intergalactic or something. Like he's someone that you have leading a team to work on a project, and it's like it would make sense for him and his team working in the shadows while they announce Intergalactic. The only kind of pushback I would have is I feel like they would have announced this game already. I don't know, 3 years in, because to me, if this game is real, it has to come out before Intergalactic. It doesn't have to, but in my mind, like,
Yeah.
you make this game to bridge the gap between Last of Us Part 2 in 2020 and Intergalactic, which we'll get to, is probably late 2027. Like 7 years. You put someone like Sean on a project between this 7-year gap to be like, hey, we're going to put something out so our fans don't have to wait nearly a decade for a game. So to me, this game should have already been announced by now if this was fully true. But in modern day PlayStation, that's not always how it works. This could be something where we see later this year, and then they put a 2026 date on it, and it's a game that's coming out next year, which I would love. And it's like, but at the end of the day, who really knows? Like until we get more info, until like you said, Schreier or someone else comes out here and maybe backs it up or reads into it, we can't be too certain. But it doesn't seem something like it seems something that would be more likely than not likely, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's one of those things where it's like there's definitely some ideas around it. I actually checked Sean's LinkedIn. He rejoined Naughty Dog in April 2021. So honestly, if you're going for a smaller scale game, it is very possible that you get it out in about 5-6 years. The usual dev cycle of that type of thing. Do you have any idea of like what this smaller game could be? I mean, is it like an Uncharted style spinoff, like type in that situation? Maybe a new IP? Dare I say their name, Jack and Daxter? It's not that. I know it's not, but I just want to say it.
See, that's the thing. He said it wasn't Last of Us, which makes sense. I don't think Neil and them they would give his baby up to Sean. To be honest, like I think Neil. If there's a next Last of Us project, I think Neil will be working on that project. It will be his. He'll take it over. That's a big budget thing. That's like a thing that you don't just give off to the side. And for some reason, I don't believe in new IP because they are making such a big deal about Intergalactic being the brand new IP and like it's the first new IP in a decade from them. Like I feel like they wouldn't announce 2 brand new IPs. Like maybe I'm overthinking it, but I feel like they would not. Like this seemed more like maybe we're going back to Uncharted, which I would be down with. I mean, at this point, it's been a decade since Uncharted 4, and Lost Legacy was 2017, I want to say. So like 8 years since that. It's been a long time since the next Uncharted thing. Would it be Nathan Drake? Would it be someone else? Who knows? But I think Uncharted is the most likely scenario here. After that, maybe Jack, but I feel
no, it's not Jack. Come on, man.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we lived in a 3-year post Astrobot world, I could believe Jack and Daxter.
Yeah.
But there's no way they started Jack and Daxter before the success of Astrobot. Like I just don't see that adding up. I feel like PlayStation looks different, in my opinion, before and after Astrobot's success. And I feel like if this was if this was after Astrobot, then we could talk about Jack and something more family friendly. But 3 years ago, I don't believe they were focusing on family friendly. PlayStation knew exactly what they wanted, these third person, more mature games, which leads me more to believe Uncharted or I guess a new IP. But a new IP, like I said before, seems less likely to me because they were just talking about Intergalactic, and I feel like you don't announce a 6th new IP in your under your house.
Yeah. It just feels like a lot to the point where it's like you might as well just like go into that Uncharted universe, do like a new game in that because it has been a while. And it's like that IP still has a lot of brand power, so you might as well like do something small there.
And maybe it could be a case scenario where it's like they know you throw Uncharted on a name, even if it's not Nathan Drake, I feel like that game's going to sell a lot. And it's like just because the Uncharted name, it could be like not what word am I trying to think of? Not like a fallback if Intergalactic isn't the success you want it to be, because I assume it will be. But like if they could put out an Uncharted game or something that they already know, like most people are known with the quantity of a Uncharted game, it could lead a little bit of space to be like, hey, if Intergalactic didn't hit, God forbid, at least we put out this Uncharted game that was pretty good and sold well and like kept us in it.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Definitely want to pay attention to that whole story. Moving into our next thing, we get to talk about the Switch 2 again before we actually do our full predictions. This was a report from Insider Gaming. I will say, as I read more and more into it, feels like kind of an ass report, but I might as well bring it up. Wario 64 has this Insider Gaming report: Switch 2 releasing in June with a 3-phase strategy approach for game releases. First, primarily first party at launch. Second phase, third party studios titles in October to November. Dev kits expected in June. Third phase, games and holiday period. Select media/creators attending Switch 2 hands on next week for console and launch games. Now, I will say a lot of people weirdly read this as, oh, there's not going to be any third parties until October to November. And also I saw people say they don't even have dev kits yet. Guys, of course, most third-party devs are not going to get dev kits until the console is out. That's just a normal thing for console release titles. But there's the third-party devs that probably have them. You're going to get like Square Enix, like high-level devs in Square Enix, like or Bandai Namco, people that are less leaky, that tend to be more trustworthy within Nintendo's eyes, are going to get those dev kits so they can do ports like a Metaphor or an Elden Ring style situations. I did find that whole thing fascinating of like people really worried about like third party output, and it's like I don't necessarily think there's much to read into here. And also, Jack, we were talking about this a lot. Daniel Ahmad actually just right under this tweeted, this article doesn't do a great job of explaining that studios have had dev kits for a while and more studios will receive them in June. And it's like you say that out loud, it's like, oh wait, this is kind of a dumb article. Common Insider Gaming L, in my opinion. But hey, I want to get your thoughts, Jack, because I know this is something we discussed for a bit.
Yeah, I don't really buy this report. I think Insider Gaming's probably heard from a publisher that doesn't have dev kits, and they're just kind of assuming that the reason they don't have dev kits is because no one else does. I just find it unbelievably hard to believe, and the amount of people that have come out, not just Daniel Ahmad, but others on Blue Sky, to say that this report doesn't seem accurate, it's just hard to believe. It doesn't make sense. Like, I'm sure that some third-party developers will get the dev kit when the console launches, but yeah, to say that none of them will, that would just piss off third parties to such an extent that would be insane. Like, Capcom was part of the reason that the Switch had the RAM that it did, because they requested more. Why would Nintendo all of a sudden be like, actually, we don't care what third parties think. We're not giving you dev kits. It's yeah, I don't believe it.
Yeah, there was one thing in the report, and there's a Wario 64. There was another article from Insider Gaming pointing this out, and Wario 64 put this on Twitter. Insider Gaming report: Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders set to go up April 9th with an exclusive collectible coin for pre-orders. That's so funny. That thing is like, okay, this is true. According to documents from a large U.S. retailer, console launch in June. And this is kind of something we were predicting for a while. It's like June has gotten more and more credence. A lot of people around GDC have been saying like June seems like the release date of the Switch 2, and it seems like something we're kind of in agreement with.
Yep.
Do you think that all retailers will open on the 9th, or do you think some open before that? Because we saw the thing from Best Buy Canada saying that they would open on the 2nd.
They
And
did I will say for that, Jack, they did immediately pull that down, and also Wario 64 stated that one of his like retailers like contacted him and said like that wasn't the real date.
See, I wonder if Nintendo will open pre-orders on the 2nd.
That's what I wanted to point out. It's like I could see a situation where it's like, hey, you want to pre-order from us directly, we'll do it on the 2nd, but you're gonna have to wait till next week for Best Buy and Walmart and whatnot.
Yeah, that's the situation I'm imagining right now. Which I
And
kind of
there's-
hope.
So when you pre-order the Switch 2, do you plan to do an online pre-order or do you want to do it in person? Because I want to do it in person.
I don't think we'll be able to do it in person.
Really don't
I-
think so?
I
I
think
don't
they'll sell out too fast.
Exactly. Well, if there's a situation where like they put out on Twitter or somewhere, it's like, hey, come to Best Buy on this day, like first come first serve for Switch 2 pre-orders, bro. I'll camp out the night before. Like that's the type of situation. But like I don't know if like on April 2nd I can just go drive to Best Buy and then immediately just like, oh, Switch 2 pre-order.
I mean,
Mhm.
Fusion, you were talking about your experience trying to pre-order the PS5 in person. Like,
Yeah, I think at this point, unless you're like someone who's gonna camp out the night before, and unless I I fear we live in a day where you can't do the entire I'm going to go inside and get something like pre-order a console because for one, like we've seen in the past, these retailers don't care. They'll tell you one date and the next thing you know, they actually sold out the night before. Or is it like you have to be so on it if you want this in person further that I feel like it's just truthfully easier. Yeah, it can be more annoying when you see the sold out page, but it's truthfully easier to just load up your computer, open 6 tabs to 6 different websites, and then just be ready, be prepared. It feels like you have way of a more likely chance of actually getting a Switch 2 that way compared to just showing up to your local Best Buy or your local, maybe your local GameStop if you live in a smaller town and there's not a lot of people around you and like you can get away with it. But I feel like for the most part, the whole going into a store and getting the physical pre-order, it seems like post-COVID, it just isn't going to work.
Yeah, COVID especially is the thing that really screwed that up. Mainly during that PS5. I don't know if you guys remember when PS5 pre-orders went up. They didn't say it during the PlayStation showcase, and then like I think later that day they were like, oh, it's gonna happen on this date, and then like Walmart and Best Buy and like other places were like, oh yeah, the pre-order's up.
Yeah, that's what I fear. That's what I imagine Switch 2 exactly what happened. Like Nintendo can say whatever. Nintendo could be like, wait till next week for pre-orders. Walmart Canada doesn't care. They're gonna be like, no, tonight.
Yeah.
We're gonna open it tonight. Like they're not going to care what Nintendo says.
Exactly. It's frustrating, but hey, I mean that's just the way it is at this point. It's listen, I mean, Fusion, you brought up the idea. It's like I am going to have my laptop. It's like put on GameStop, Walmart, Best Buy. Like during that Switch 2 presentation, Wario 64, Jake Randall, everything
Like,
possible to make sure. Like
preload your credit card. Just like preload your credit card,
Yep.
get your address in there, be prepared, and
Yep.
just yeah, that's the most. I feel like that's the way you'll find the most success whenever these pre-orders do drop. Is if you just sit there on that computer, get everything ready, and just dial in, and hopefully you get it. And hopefully Nintendo makes a lot more of these consoles that this shouldn't be a big deal. Like I'm not too concerned that this is immediately going to sell out and I won't be able to get them. Like I feel like if you're in a timely manner, you're going to be able to get one of these. I don't think it's going to be a thing where you have to do it within actual minutes. Maybe I could be wrong, but I feel like you could sit here 20 minutes later and get one in my eyes.
they're gonna have different windows past this. Like they're gonna have like on like, oh, this weekend we're gonna do more Switch 2 pre-orders up until launch. It's just that I want people to understand, like, you will not be able to like go to a store and just buy it
Yeah.
off the shelves. That just won't happen.
It'd be really cool, but I
God, that'd
doubt
be
it.
so cool. Dude, scalpers suck, man. They're the worst human beings.
And yeah, that's the thing now. It's like half of these Nintendo Switch 2s are not going to real players. They're going straight to
Yeah.
scalpers. So that would be the more fun part.
I do
I-
hope they do the phased like release it in waves and do have one where like if you have a Nintendo account you can pre-order it that day, but at least just to narrow it down on the scalpers, try and make it harder for them.
Like you have to have at least 10 minutes play the Mario Odyssey. If you
Dude,
don't,
I was
you can't do it.
I was gonna bring that up. There was I heard about this whenever like new Gundam come out in Japan, like figure sets, to avoid scalpers, the shopkeeper will literally ask the person, it's like, can you pronounce the name of it? And if they can't pronounce the name of it, they get kicked out. And it's like, dude, we should have a thing where it's like, who is Mario's brother? like actually like a questionnaire.
And you could just do the exact same thing for Pokemon because nobody knows how to pronounce Pokemon names.
How do you pronounce Sinistea? It's like, oh fuck. I'm not getting a Switch 2, never mind. Moving into our next story, Fuchsia brought this up earlier. The Witcher 4 and Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet will both release in 2027 or later, according to Jason Schreier. Shouts to Okami for pulling that up. And then Jason Schreier just straight up says, like, neither of those games will be out by next year.
This is disappointing.
I don't believe him. So
It's not surprising. I will say Intergalactic I could have seen in 2026. Witcher 4, I mean, come on, guys. There's no
Witcher 4, I didn't expect next year. Intergalactic, though, I thought was for sure next year. So that was disappointing.
let me ask you this: what makes you? Why were you so?
Anything?
I mean, no. Why would you expect Intergalactic before Witcher?
It's a
Witcher
CD Projekt Red game. Those games take forever.
CD Projekt Red, open world. So many things they have to live up to and do right this time. Just Witcher 4 is like, okay, I can see that being a much longer game. Like, that could be 2028. I could see for Witcher 4.
Yeah, they were in pre-production for that game for a while. They didn't enter full production until a bit later.
Intergalactic, well, maybe a little bit more open, but more linear, probably 20 to 30 hours. Like, it's been a long time since Last of Us. I kind of thought, well, yeah, that'll be next year for sure. And it's kind of disappointing and deflates my hype a little bit.
I feel it. It's just like both these companies' last games were 2020, so it's like I know it doesn't feel that way, but Part 2 and Cyberpunk both came out in the same year. So like
but
I can
Cyberpunk
understand.
wasn't.
Yeah,
Cyberpunk
Cyberpunk. I
wasn't
guess they
finished
weren't
until
done.
2023.
Yeah, they had to keep going. That is true. They did have to keep working on it. Well, yeah. To me, I'm not gonna say I don't believe Jason because I don't think he's ever been wrong in his life.
So funny. That's so funny. It's like, I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, like. But I do think there is a world where Intergalactic is next year. Witcher, I completely agree. I think Witcher is 2027. I've said that for a while. I think, and you guys don't believe it's 2027. I know we've argued in Discord that you guys think that game's forever away, and I'm always like, I think that's first half 2027. Who knows if that's actually true?
But for Witcher?
Yeah, Witcher. I know you guys are like, this game's 2029, like whatever, but
I could see 2027. I mean, it just feels closer to 2028, especially with how long these dev cycles have become.
Well, they've also got to have room in 2026 for the Witcher remake.
I
Right,
hate you.
Fusion?
I want to stab you. I wanna stab you. Well, like, I will say, with Binge, I was a little disappointed to be like, to not see Intergalactic next year. Which, again, I'm not going to fully say it's not next year, but I'll believe Jason at this point and say it is probably 2027, which is a bit annoying. Because I thought they did have a real shot to come out next year. Maybe PlayStation, maybe they have a shot to come out next year, but PlayStation, we already know of some 2026 games on the radar. Like, we already know that I always forget the Housemarque one they just announced. I always forget the name.
Saros. Is it Saros?
Yeah, I think so. That's a 2026 title already. That's a space game, like type planet game. Maybe they don't want to release that in the same year as Intergalactic. Wolverine has to be next year. I mean, it just has to
I
be.
don't know. Starting to get
Fair
worried
game.
about that.
Like Jason and I'm pretty sure Grubb both said Fair Games was next year. Like, so it's like PlayStation already has 2026 games on record coming out. So like I could understand maybe that is another reason they don't need Intergalactic next year. And they're able to give them more time to work on it and come out in 2027. So like I understand why this headline makes sense. It's just a little sad to hear because I thought there was a decent chance we could be playing Intergalactic next year. I never believed Witcher was next year. That's for sure. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Intergalactic feels like a weird one where it's like, I could have seen a situation where it came out next year, but it is that thing of like, I feel like just when you look at the expanding long dev cycles, it almost feels like it felt like a fool's errand to believe it was 2026. And great, I mean, we're probably going to, I don't want to say probably because I'm not fully in on this rumor, but like we could get a Naughty Dog game in between. With
I was about to say that. I think if the other rumor is true, there is a real chance we get a Naughty Dog game next year. And it won't be Intergalactic, but I think there is a chance we get something from Naughty Dog next year, if the rumor is true.
And what about this God of War side story? Like, that could be next year.
I know Jeff said this year.
Yeah, but GTA.
Yeah.
What you guys are saying is 2026 is the year of PlayStation, baby. Okay?
I mean,
it's got something to look forward to.
I mean, I think 2025 is pretty good year.
Has it been? What have they had so far?
Well, I mean, we're getting Death Stranding and Ghost in the same year. I mean,
okay, I mean, yeah. And then from
and
there, it's like
I'm
Until
telling
Dawn
you
2.
that Until Dawn 2 is gonna be
Everybody's
real. Come
golf.
out this year.
Ask
Yeah,
about
everybody's golf.
DLC.
Astronaut
Like
DLC?
I really like this has been going back to we talked about it probably like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when Shinobi posted in Reset Era, and he said the next 2 years for PlayStation will be really good. All these rumors, all these leaks, all these stuff are adding up to like he wasn't lying. Like you know what I mean? Like 2025 and 2026 from what we know of so far, it's like yeah, this is the most excited we've been able to have for PlayStation in freaking 3 years. Like maybe not that long, but it feels like this is the most we've actually seen a roadmap come out where for like 2 years there we were completely in the dark.
There's also those rumors of I hate to bring up the name of the PlayStation Showcase. That's very
Yeah.
possibly going to happen, but also it could just be a state of play. That's the thing with PlayStation. It's like you can't really predict like what these presentations are going to be anymore.
We have Marathon this year. Like it's good. I'm telling you, good year.
We know
you're
we're
all
going to
forgetting
see
that-
more sorrows.
There's also the Borderlands 4 state of play to look forward to. So
Oh yeah,
I
dude, I
genuinely
forgot
will
about
kick you out
that.
of- I'm going to kick you out of this call. Genuinely.
Dude, I forgot that's coming.
You know what's funny is I saw the Trails of the Sky remake date is the same day as Borderlands 4.
I mean,
So,
one game
honestly-
is going to be better.
Yeah, Borderlands. No, I would never do that.
Oh.
No, I know that's not true. I would never. That's the one franchise I can't disrespect Trails against is Borderlands. Oh God.
Real quick, just speaking of, just thinking about Marathon. Do you guys what did Grubb say a month when he talked about how Marathon was gonna have its own event? Did he say April or am I
No,
making that up? Okay.
I don't even think he said it would have its. Wait, did Grep say?
Yeah, remember he said
He did.
Marathon would
Oh,
have
yeah,
its
it was
own
Grub.
reveal. Yeah.
I was trying to remember because dude, you get all these like people mixed up in their brain of like who said who again? I
Yeah.
forget. But yeah, you're right. He was talking about Marathon getting its own event. That seems like something where it's like it's gonna be Bungie branded instead of Sony, which is really funny that Borderlands would get a state of play but not Marathon. I just find that funny.
Yeah. that is a little silly.
To kind of keep up with like CD Projekt Red, this was something that came out of their financial report. Everything else was stuff we kind of knew about, but this was interesting. Jordan Midler put this out. Witcher and Cyberpunk's CD Projekt is teaming up with Scopely for an IP adaptation. Scopely is the mobile giant behind Monopoly Go, which is a very scummy game. I would look up on it. The partnership was announced during CD Projekt's earnings call on Tuesday. No details were announced, nor was the specific IP that the game would use. The game will pair the Polish independent developer with one of the world's largest mobile gaming developer. Scopely, the mobile giant behind Monopoly Go, recently announced that it will acquire Niantic, the studio behind Pokemon Go. Interestingly enough, so they don't mention IP. At first, I thought this would be like, oh, it's going to be just like a Gwent game. And then I realized there already is a Gwent game on mobile. So now I'm like very confused, like what this could be. I mean, Fusion, you're the CD Projekt guy. Do you got any? I've been calling on Fusion a lot. It's like outside of the Nintendo stuff, it's like a lot of the news pertains to you, man.
No, it'll probably just be like a Monster Hunter Go thing or a Pokemon Go, like some monster hunting thing where you're a Witcher and you're like hunting monsters on your phone.
Yeah,
like
a Witcher Go.
Yeah, like something where it's like this isn't gonna be cool or fun, but it will be out there.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated why they think they need to do this. It's like you have Gwent. Like I don't know why you're like we need Scopely to work on a game for us. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out because it's like I find it interesting, but it's like I don't really get it. Moving into our next story, mindseye got a new trailer today. Launches June 10th. Saruman Gamatsu has this single-player, story-driven action-adventure game. mindseye will launch for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam on June 10th for $59.99 US. Publisher IO Interactive and developer Build a Rocket Boy announced. And then pre-order for both physical and digital copies are available now. In addition to the full game, users who pre-order mindseye will receive an upgrade to the deluxe edition. And then like other stuff there. But there was a new trailer, and I watched it, and I kind of said this earlier. It's just like this feels like a game where it's like I'm into it, but also I don't really know if it's real. And I guess it is interesting that it's getting a physical version because so it seems like they're putting a little more money behind this than I expected. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm wanting to be really excited for this game of like kind of the talent behind it and the intriguing plot, but it's like every time I watch a trailer, I'm like, I don't know what this is really, like in terms of like how real it is.
Dude, I cannot stand the main character. Like he looks so generic. Every time I see him, I'm like, this was your design? You went with this guy? Like I don't know, I watched that trailer. I know we were on differing opinions when TGA was this at TGA?
No, it was at a State of Play.
Stay Play. When we were talking about this, I'm like, even the talent behind it, I just can't get behind this game. Like I feel like the gameplay looks super jank. This trailer that I watched today, it looked like it wanted to be GTA / Cyberpunk, but way worse. Like I feel like this game is going to come out and get a 62 on OpenCritic. I'll be happily wrong, but I have no desire to play this game. And then it's like the more I see it, the more I'm like, it feels so soulless. Like it has no soul behind it. And I'm like, this is crazy to say about former Rockstar GTA devs.
It feels like a game that would be in the background of like a TV show, which is like, oh,
this
wow,
feels
this
like a
is
game
weird.
you would see being played in a GTA game.
Yeah, honestly.
GTA.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the more I think about it, the more I look at it, I'm like, I don't know what to think about this game. And it's like I've kind of lost like a lot of my intrigue in
Even
it.
if you look at the like pre-order now and the deluxe edition thing, like the assets they're using for these cars and like oh, it looks so bad. I mean, it looks terrible. And I'm like, how are you like? No wonder they just like basically under the radar put the release date out there. Like they didn't make it a big deal. They're just like, oh hey, this game's coming this day. Like I feel like they're not even confident in their own thing.
Yeah, no, it's all fair. I mean, it definitely, it's like it has that UE5 engine stank to it, I guess you could say. Even though it's not UE5, it's their own proprietary engine. Or it was part of that game, like everything, everywhere. I don't
Everywhere, I think it's called everywhere.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's a weird game. One I'm definitely like wanting to follow. Just like either if it crashes and burns or it comes out and it's like, oh, it's actually a surprise hit. But moving into a story that I actually forgot to put in the doc, but it is a pretty major story. Warner Brothers cancels planned Hogwarts Legacy game expansion. This is Jason Schreier at Bloomberg. Hogwarts Legacy, or Warner Brothers Discovery Inc. canceled a planned expansion for its popular Hogwarts Legacy title as part of an ongoing restructuring of the entertainment company's video game unit, according to people familiar. The expansion, which would have added new storylines to the original game, had been planned for release this year alongside a definitive edition with all of the content. The plans weren't publicly announced, but were reported last year by Bloomberg. A spokesperson for Warner Brothers has declined to comment. I mean, listen, I've kind of thought about this. It's like I think Warner Brothers has unironically canceled more games this generation than released.
I can't believe they canceled it, to be honest. Like they're moneymaker. This was their thing that makes money. I think honestly, I'm not mad they canceled it because like I don't know who wanted this or who asked for it, but like I wasn't gonna go back and play this, but it just surprised me a little bit that like I feel like they could have made some real money out of this, and they were just like, nah, let's move on.
I was actually waiting for this version to play the game, so I guess that doesn't matter anymore.
Maybe it's a situation where it's like just put all hands on deck for the sequel because we need as much like money flowed in as possible, and we want to get everyone on that game. I don't really get it. This is a weird situation. Moving into. Oh yeah. Also, I wanted to point this out. There was another story. I didn't put it on the doc because like there was a lot of stuff. They apparently also canceled like from Warner Brothers San Diego like a Mario Kart style like spin-off game. That was just a weird choice of like might as well just release that too. It's like I don't understand their whole cancel culture, but it's like they've been canceling a lot of stuff. It feels like a major restructuring.
I have to imagine that was because of multiverses. Because if it was like it was going to be the smash to the Mario Kart thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, and there's one other news story.
Yeah, I saw it, Bench. Oh my god.
Listen,
you know what's funny? I was going to like say, and Bench, you know what? I wanted to point this out, but you forcefully put it on my dock.
Listen,
all right, talk about your 8th Trails game of this year.
Yeah, it's going to be the 4th Trails game of this year, but yeah, Trails Kaino Kaseki is getting localized. It's going to be called Trails Beyond the Horizon. And I guess we got to shout it out because our goats NIS America sent us the Daybreak 2 code and hopefully pull through for this next game. I've already submitted for a key. But, I mean, I've played this game already through the fan translation. and it's the second best Trails game, and I want to play it again desperately because it's a game that like you go through it again and you're probably going to see very like little things. So like the setting for this game is the world is probably coming to an end soon, and you got to find out all the secrets about the world that have kind of been hidden up until this point, and in the 13th game in the series. And I am very much excited to go through this again because it lives up to all the hype and then some. And it's got the best gameplay in the series by far.
How long is it?
This was the longest Trails game, and it took me like 75 hours.
Oh, it's the longest one. It's like, oh, I really need to replay it. You got
Yeah.
enough on your plate bench.
I just
gotta
can't
play.
believe.
Gotta play it.
I just can't believe every time a new trail like is announced or something, it's just like it's coming to the West finally. Like I always get got every time I'm like, oh, a new Trails game being announced, and no, it's just like this game's been out for 4 years, actually, just now coming over.
This
It's
is
like, what?
this is actually like the biggest monumental because this is the last game that's out in Japan. It came out in September of last year. So before the next Trails game, we will be caught up for the first time in 21 years.
That is so funny. I got again.
Like I go, like every time I see it, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. They're announcing a new trail. Nope, this game's been out for 4 years. It's like, okay, man.
Mm-hmm.
And like Binks will always find a way to put it at the Soggies, even though it's not eligible. And we're like, this isn't how this works.
Oh,
But okay.
this is gonna be on the Soggies.
It shouldn't be.
You could put a
It'll
localized products. That's cheating.
We need a best localized, and it's just trails every
Yeah,
year.
just do that. We'll give you that. Then you can't put it on your top 10.
Let's literally just put a new.
It'll
Can we
be-
make a new category? Best trails game, just for Binks. Just for him to put it in there.
I mean, there might be 2 Trails games because one's coming out in September likely, and then there's this one. So lots to look forward to for Trails fans.
I said 8 Trails games as a joke, and he said half of that. It's like, what
I
the
know.
fuck?
And he said this year, by the way, it's March.
March.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
feel like
crazy.
they just cannibalize each other at a certain point, but also Trails fans will be like, hey, 2 cakes. They'll buy both. And I
Yeah.
respect that.
But and then you have like the Sky one, which is the one like you can recommend to people. And the thing with like this one is you can't just jump in. Like the most I mean that ever. Because there's like screenshots and info from past games, and like this is the one game out of all of them that truly requires you to be completely in the know about every little thing, including side quests from like all the games. Like it expects you to know everything.
Man, they really make these for the hardcore of the hardcore. I respect it. Imagine if Borderlands 4 was like, nah, you can't play this until you play Borderlands 3 and all the side quests.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
You gotta play Tiny Tina's. You gotta play it all.
Just the sales go to the negatives. It's like, no one's playing that shit.
You can skip every other game, but you have to play Tiny Tina.
Oh god. I did want to bring this up. This is just posted. I was interested in this. We got the Xbox games and how they're doing on PlayStation in terms of sales numbers. This was posted by Reese Elliott on Blue Sky, and I found it interesting. So there's like kind of charts like mentioning the Steam to PlayStation ratio. See if the 13 million copies on Steam, 1.8 million on PlayStation. Seems to be doing very well for a game that released like in 2018, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, March 2018, I want to say.
Yeah. And then from there, it's like Grounded sold almost 500K, 436,000. You'd have to imagine Switch isn't included in this, but that came out on Switch, so you'd imagine maybe that crosses over the 500K mark. Hi-Fi Rush at 137,000. Pentiment at 14,000, which I'll be honest, lower than even I expected. And I know it's an awesome game, but it's also like, man, people really are just not into it, or at least like from the outset. And I know like it's more of a critical darling, and they know it is. They understand it's not the type of game that's going to basically give you like 5 million sales, but it is just funny just saying 14,000. It's like, oh man, I feel like you would expect more from an Obsidian game, like just with the name.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, even I was like interested in that game before it launched, and I haven't played it. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like Obsidian's really proud of that game, but it just did not hit the masses at all. And they probably knew that. They probably knew like this wasn't going to be like something that sells crazy. Like they put it on Game Pass, and they like I remember the article when it did release how they were like happy that Game Pass exists for something like Pentiment because they could just put it out there. But yeah, this is lower than I thought it would be on PlayStation.
That's it for all the news. Pretty busy news week, all things considered. A lot of smaller stories, but some interesting conversations to say the least. But now, boys, so we want to get into our topic of the show. In 5 days, the greatest day of my human life will come up.
Yes.
Better than
Marriage.
the Switch One day.
Listen, man, this is what it is, Fusion. I will get married. I will have kids. And those days will pale in comparison to the Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. We are 5 days away. April 2nd. We are getting the presentation. We're going to do our predictions, our final predictions. We've been kind of predicting for a while, and we even did some predictions in the show, but this is going to be our, like, big block. I don't have too much of a structure to this. I just have some questions, and, like, I asked you guys to, like, bring up some ideas that you wanted to shout out as well. God bless Fusion. He messaged, you're asking a horse to climb a tree, but hey, you know what? That's why we want you here. I want that. I actually do appreciate that insight of like, oh, what about someone that isn't like the Nintendo obsessed person? Like, what's their idea of what this thing could be?
I'm happy to just say some random stuff.
No, dude, it's fun. I love this type of stuff. Getting all different types of viewpoints. But I think we should all start off with, when is this thing coming out? I think we all agree it's June, but like when in June? Are we expecting late June, early June? Oh, you think it's early?
I think it's before Summer Game Fest.
So you think it's going to be a case of like everyone at Summer Game Fest is just going to be carrying a Switch too?
We're walking around with it.
Let me look at an exact date.
I'm saying June 13th.
I'm gonna
that's the
say
day after SGF.
June 5th.
Okay, so June 5th for Bench, June 13th for Fusion. What about you, Jack?
Just to be different, I'll go with June. I'll go with the 26th.
Okay, so you're 26, same day as Death Stranding 2. You're just trying to fucking kill me there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doomed on that day.
Oh god. You know what? I'll do the last difference. I think it's June 19th. And that's not even me being different. Like, that's genuinely what I thought. I thought it was going to be like week before DS2, week after SGF. I think they want to get a lot of the conversation to themselves at that point. And they were always going to have a shit ton of conversation around themselves, but it's like, we want to reserve this week specifically for us. But yeah, so we all have different thoughts there. That's very funny. What is the length of this presentation? That was something that was kind of discussed. Like, how long are we expecting this thing to be?
90 minutes is what I'm thinking.
Oh, an hour and a half. That would be by far the longest direct.
I was saying that would be even longer than Switch One.
Because I just think they want to cover the hardware as well and the software of the system. Like, it's not going to just be games. Like, I think you have like an hour of games, but maybe 30 minutes or so covering everything else about the system.
Yeah, I think I'm a little less than you. I wouldn't expect a full 90 minutes. I think it's closer to like maybe an hour, like a little over an hour, that type of thing. Because I do think they have a shit ton to cover, but it's almost like, oh, we also have My Nintendo Today. Unironically, like we could use that to kind of do some marketing beats on there as well.
So I've just looked. Oh, sorry, go on.
You go, Jack. He said, "Okay, never mind." I would say, I would say around an hour. Like in my head, I said 62 minutes. I guess sounds like the right amount of number, but like, I don't know. It feels like, I think when I looked up the Switch One, it was like 58 minutes or something. I want to say like it was around there, and I feel like they're gonna do a similar thing. Like 90 minutes would be cool, but that just feels like way too long for this. Like that just feels like at some point it would drag. Like the hardware, at the end of the day, it's just a better Switch. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna show off like some of the cool features, but I feel like they can't. Like 90 minutes is a long time to go through. There would have to be a lot of games for a 90-minute showcase. Where I feel like you make it around an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, somewhere in that span, and it's like you talk about the hardware, you show the new software, maybe new UI, and then you can show some games. I don't expect. Maybe I'm wrong because I didn't watch that Switch One Direct. Was it like mainly games, or like wasn't the Switch One like when they did that? Wasn't that the first time they showed Mario?
The presentation.
Yeah, the presentation.
So the thing about that Switch One presentation, so it is about an hour. What happened was that they would show a game and then talk about it for like 4 or 5 minutes. So it wasn't like a continuous like game reveal. So there actually wasn't that many games there. There was a good amount of games, don't get me wrong. It's where we first saw Shin Megami Tensei 5, Super Mario Odyssey, like, got a full reveal, because it got a little snippet before, but, like, that was, like, the full reveal. But there was also stuff that wasn't even in there. Like, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe wasn't even talked about at that Switch presentation. It was talked about afterwards. So it's that thing of, like, I think this is going to be around an hour because they don't even really need to talk about the switching of it all. Like, so much about the Switch is like already kind of like common knowledge with the Switch 2. So they can kind of like avoid all that. It's like talk about the new features, the new software, and then they could talk about games. And I do think there's going to be a lot more games in this thing, but it's also not a situation where it's like, oh, it's going to be an hour and a half because of how much we need to talk about these games.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote with you. I guess we're gonna disagree. I think there's going to be less games than we think they're going to be at this thing.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'm not expecting like this doesn't give me PlayStation 5 Future of Gaming Showcase where it was like actually for like you know how they just wrote like we got trailer after trailer after trailer. Like you said, I fully do believe that they'll take the route of showing a game and then maybe talking a little bit after it. Maybe not the exact route because I don't know how that would sit as a modern day showcase 8 years later, but like something more where the games are being talked over or talked more about compared to just we're gonna throw a bunch of trailers at you. I feel like they will want to talk about like, hey, this new game is running on this new hardware and like this is what it's doing compared to just showing trailer after trailer after trailer.
Yeah, they do need to save stuff for like later directs, like a September
Yeah.
direct and whatnot. Jack, you wanted to say something earlier?
I was just going to comment on the original Switch Direct like Fusion did. Yeah, it was just over an hour, but it was also a stage show, whereas this is a direct, so I do expect this to be a lot faster paced than that was.
That's a great point, actually.
You should have
So-
seen it. I recommend Fusion just watching the No More Heroes segment of that presentation. It is the funniest thing you'll
Well,
ever watch.
I've watched bits of that presentation from like when I go back and like watch Easy Allies like reactions. Like I went back and done that. I've never just sat there and like watched it in full, but like I'll go back and like watch the Easy Allies reaction like to the Mario and stuff, and it's like so I like kind of got a idea of what the show was. But yeah, Jack makes a great point of like this is not going to be like on a stage or something. Like this isn't a presentation. This is going to be fully digital, and like that could take off 15 minutes.
Yeah, because the original show, like, yeah, they showed games, but they also like Will said, they talked about them, but also they just brought on third parties, and the third party guys would just say, "Yep, that Switch is cool." Like EA, I don't think they showed a game, but they were there. Sega, similar. They just turned up and they were like, "Yeah, we like the idea of the Switch."
Dude,
But-
the Sega guy was so funny. It's like, yeah, we're gonna do a lot of stuff for the Switch, and he left. It's like, what? What are you doing?
Yeah, but this time, obviously, there will probably be more games because the third parties actually believe in the console and they'll all want their games in. I think it will be about maybe an hour and 15 to settle in the middle between you guys. Just over an hour.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be a meaty presentation, but like Fusion said, it's not like, oh, we're going to see Animal Crossing, the next Zelda, this one, this. I mean, obviously we'll get to it in the predictions, but they like having stuff saved for like future presentations. Like Nintendo isn't the onslaught type of like, here's everything for the generation for the next 5 years. Moving into, so we talked about length, we talked about release date. I guess I kind of want to talk to you guys about the structure of this presentation. This is a weird, more ambiguous ask, but like, how do we think like, this direct starts? Like, are they talking about hardware first? How long did they talk about said hardware, the software? Like, are there going to be details omitted specifically specs wise? Are they going to even mention the specs of like what's going to be in the system that way, or is like check the Nintendo, my Nintendo later?
They open up with 3D Mario.
Oh, you think it's right into game?
I think they want to show you how much better this is going to look, and they're going to save like the system talk until last.
Yeah, I agree with Bench. I think they at least open with a game and then maybe talk a little bit about the Switch 2. And then probably like the big stuff will be right at the end, like the price, the release date. I think that'll all be at the end.
That's funny because I was going to predict almost exactly that, and I was going to be like, I thought I was going to get clowned for it. I think they open with a game and then go into specs. Like they open with a game just so you can see a game finally running on the Switch 2, and everyone's like, wait, this looks really good. and then they come on screen and they talk about the specs a little bit, and then we get into more games and like so forth. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea to like start with a maybe not 3D Mario, but like start with something that like immediately it's not just someone talking. It's more of like, look how good this video game looks to like grab your attention right from the start.
It's interesting. I think I'm actually disagree with you guys. I don't think they start with the game. I think they go right into like the hardware and talk about like, hey, here's what's different. Here's what we're planning to do. I think they actually start with release date and price. And we'll get to price in a minute, but like I think they say it right off the bat. It's like, this is when it's coming out. This is when pre-orders are. Blah blah blah. From there, maybe they do pre-orders at the end, but like I think it's a situation where it's like, if you want to see the games, we'll show you them later. That type of thing. And in terms of specs, I promise you guys, they are going to do. They are not going to give you numbers. They are going to give you the American measurement system. They're going to say, this is 16 times more powerful than a GameCube. It is 32 N64s, like something like that. They will not say it uses a Tegra NVIDIA 4080 chip or anything like that. That's the type of stuff that like Digital Foundry will maybe get an exclusive on.
Now, I do think they might talk about AI upscaling, because I think that's something they might mention, but I don't think they give you the exact like specs.
Do you think they give it like a Nintendo name, like Nintendo upscaling, or is it just they're gonna outright say AI upscaling?
I don't know.
Is it so?
Like
do we not fully? Yeah, do we not fully know if like they have not confirmed DLSS yet, right? Like
they haven't confirmed it, but it's effectively confirmed at this point with all.
Okay, but because my thing, if it's actually the NVIDIA DLSS, I think I think they're going to call it DLSS. I don't think they're going to have a special name for it because I think because personally, I think if you're in NVIDIA, you don't want them to put a different name on it. If you're in NVIDIA, you want people to like tech people, just people in general to know like, hey, this upscaling is from us compared to the PlayStation PSSR. They can call it that because that's in-house. And Nintendo was making an in-house upscaler. Sure, they can call it whatever. But I feel like, let's say, for example, AMD was doing the PlayStation upscaling. I feel like PlayStation would just call it FSR. They would never nickname it PSSR. Personally, that's how I see it.
Jack, did you have any thoughts on that?
I don't even think they're going to name it or name drop it. I think they'll just say, hey, look, this looks better.
Yeah, true, they could just say that.
Digital Foundry just gets the scoop after that, but like pretty much just they say it will look better on Switch 2.
I was gonna say I could definitely see a world where they don't say the word AI, they don't say upscale, they're just like it just looks better, run.
Yeah. Do you notice how sometimes the graphics are not as crusty?
Like I can 100% see that, and then like Digital Foundry have to come out with like a full article about what we're actually seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what I expect. I don't expect to see like any specs from anyone until someone actually gets it.
I can see that. Let's get into price. This has been an ongoing discussion, especially regarding tariffs. What do you guys think the price of this Switch 2 is going to be?
$400.
Yeah, right there with you. 400.
Mink should have to take that back. We got in an argument on Discord not even that long ago that he was like, he refused to say this thing was gonna be $400. I said it's gonna be $399. He's like, it's gonna be $500, Fusion. That's what he kept telling me. And now you're $400 all of a sudden. Yeah, I'm telling you.
I did that.
Yeah, you did that.
His daddy.
I need some proof.
No, I'm kidding.
You did that.
I don't know. Actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
I'll
400
search for it.
But yeah, I think $399. If it's anything more than $399, you guys won't care, but I'll care personally. I think it would be ridiculous if this thing is priced more than $400.
What if it's $450?
I think it's $450.
I think it would be too expensive personally.
I mean, this is a case of like the Switch is $300, Switch Lite is $200, OLED is $350. I feel like immediately like it has to be more expensive than them. And in the case of like, if this thing is considerably more powerful, if they have first party exclusives, they can kind of get away with that $400, which personally I think that's fine. But also I was gonna buy it no matter what.
See, that's the thing. I think like a lot of Switch 1 fans will buy it no matter what, even though it's $500. But as someone who's like, I'm not the Nintendo guy right now, like $500 would be. I mean, just to me, it's. I understand you can't just say the whole. It comes down to power thing. Like the software doesn't matter, but like to be $200 less than a PS5 Pro just sounds insane to me for a Switch that, like, at the end of the day, it's just now, like, getting 1080p. Like, we're going to be happy when, like, the console's not 720p anymore. You know, like, that's, I don't know. So $500 seems insane if they would price it that way.
It's utilizing DLSS, so I do think that 4K is very possible with DLSS, but I think maybe base, like, it would be like a 1080. But Jack, you were gonna say something?
I do think 500 is possible. I definitely wouldn't rule it out. I am leaning towards 450 at the moment, but I also think it will be. I don't think it will have equivalent pricing in other regions. Like, I think it will be £450 here, and they'll just make up the difference there and be like, oh, we'll charge the Europeans more. But in the US, obviously that's the big market. I do think it will be 450.
So I want to point out, Fusion, I think you're a fraud.
No, I think I did. I think it was Colin, not Bench.
November 25th, Bench asked me, as he always does, what are your thoughts on people saying the next Switch will be 500 plus? And then I said, as a joke, 4K incoming. I'm so unfunny. And then Bench.
Oh, you meant
it. Bench put, I think it's 400 to 450.
Oh, he said 450. Something's not. No. No, I think I will apologize to Bench. I think it was Colin like a month ago. I think Colin got in an argument with me that he said it was going to be more expensive because of inflation or something. I was like, there's just not, like, I understand, yeah, inflation's real and it happens, but, like, I don't think they're going to base the console price around it. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what your guys' argument was about. Colin was the $500 gang. It is interesting. I do think it's very possible that this thing could be for like $500, especially with like tariffs and whatnot, and inflation. And Nintendo do like getting very big margins on stuff. They want to make as much money as possible when they sell stuff. I just think, like, well, you still want to be semi-competitive. You still want to try to get some things out. And hey, they could do a $500 model down the road and say, here's OLED with that, which stupid that there's not an OLED model at launch. But hey, it's weird. Nintendo's weird. I do think it's very possible that this is 400. I will say it's impossible that this is 300. It's not going to be the same price as the original Switch, in my opinion.
I would like cry like actual tears of joy if it was $300. I don't think it will be, obviously, but like it would be so great,
bro.
I have one full time. That's the issue. I got bills. So.
Moving into, I guess, let's talk about like the C button. Well, this mysterious C button, which by the way was, I didn't put this. It was officially announced by Nintendo, but not actually. They just had a render with the C button on it. So it's almost like a soft confirm. Bench, we've been kind of like talking about this, and I think we both agree it's like this is going to be some type of community hub joint.
Yeah, I think it'll be the Connect button.
So yeah, basically like a PlayStation button where you got your friends list, your everything there, like that type of thing.
Yeah, I think this is because this just goes back to what I think the Switch 2's big focus is just much more online focused, community focused, social hub kind of stuff. Because I think that's just the biggest way you can distinguish the Switch 2.
100%. I don't know if Fusion or Jack, either of you disagree in that.
No, I could see it. I would assume it is something like you guys are saying. I can't, like, I know, like, it's the big, like, secret thing that people are like, what could the C button be for? But I feel like it can only be truthfully for like two things.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's some like crazy new tech idea that Nintendo's putting in there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I guess we can move into kind of the like software, but like software in the case of eShop and whatever applications, if there's a possibility of themes. Do you guys see anything like substantial in that regard of like a eShop overhaul or a Street Pass type feature similar to
the
that?
UI needs to be completely different, or I'm going to be a little upset.
Oh, it's going to be different. It has to be.
Like the Switch 1 UI is so basic. It's so basic, and we've had it for 8 years. Basic black and whatever the white's called. It can't be the same. And the eShop is so bland. Like, if they're going to do a community hub, part of it has to be the UI looks good. It just needs to.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, go ahead, Fusion, please.
I agree. My only pushback is, I think they will change it. But Xbox did not change theirs when the Series X launched. And I
Yeah,
think
but Xbox is incompetent.
I know that's the only thing. Is like Xbox is annoying. That's why I was kind of making a joke, but like they better change the UI because that's the one thing with the Series X when it came out and they were like save UI. I'm like, why? Like, why are we doing this?
It's like this doesn't feel like a new console. Yeah, I guess it's like the case of like when it comes to the UI, yeah, they don't have to change it, but effectively the Switch 1 UI was made with a box full of scraps. Like they were making it with the notion of we want everything to load instantly, we want everything to kind of like work immediately. Like you turn on the console, it immediately turns on because they knew so much of the problems with the Wii U was how long it took to turn on, and they just wanted to avoid that headache. And the Switch 1 has like 2 gigabytes of RAM, so it was not able to do a lot in that case to get everything instant. So I think now Nintendo, they have a lot more RAM to work with. They understand the hardware a lot more. They're going to be a lot more willing to kind of like be a bit more crazy and say, hey, you have a theme store that you can go buy themes for like upcoming games and whatnot. Or at the very least, like something to kind of change things up other than have a themes folder and only have 2 themes. Like, not even like cyan. Like, you don't even go that far. Like, I don't know. That's the weirdest Nintendo decision of all time to me. I guess I do want to bring up Street Pass. Is there any possibility of like something community wise there, Bench? Because dude, I would love Street Pass back, but it almost feels like it's like I feel like you would have done it for Switch 1.
I don't know, but I think they're like when you hit the connect button, they're gonna have this weird thing with like Mii's or something that it brings you to that's more of a not as much of a menu as it needs to be or whatever. So maybe, but also I'm not sure.
Maybe like the Wii U Street Pass Plaza,
Yeah.
where it's just like all the like Mii's hanging out. Like, oh, I'm playing this. I could see something like that.
Yeah, I could see something like that.
And for the love of God, are we going to get an eShop revamp where it actually runs? Do they mention eShop?
I mean, I think they show us the UI. So I don't know. Like, I think even if maybe they put it on their website, maybe you can like click through the UI and how it's going to look.
Because I don't know if you guys have used the eShop recently. It is a
Yep.
It's so bad.
I've not used it recently, but I used it like once to get I think Cocoon like forever ago, and
Oh my god.
I cannot. I just like Bink said, like I don't know, the UI is just it doesn't even scream Nintendo. I don't know what it just screams boring.
boring.
Like it's just boring. It's just so boring and so like I don't know. And it's a small feature, so like at the end of the day it doesn't matter. But like the Xbox store, the PlayStation store, I feel like it has like pizzazz to it, where it's like
Yeah.
you feel some type of excitement that you're buying a new game. You go to that like Nintendo eShop and you're just like feels like you're just in a I don't know. It just sucks.
Yeah. The Switch 1 UI was made for function, and now I think they're actually going to make it for style. They're going to like, hey, now that we know that this thing can work, we have a lot more RAM to work with. We're going to actually add some more pizzazz and style to whatever we're doing. Just some music at the very least. I hate how quiet it is. It's so like dreary. Before we get into the actual games, I want to point one more thing. Nintendo Switch Online, any updates there, new systems, new things, or like features type of thing that could get added?
No new systems, but just Mario Kart is going to be a lot better online. Like games are going to have a lot better online modes.
Is that something they point out in a presentation, you think? Or is it just a promise?
I think it's
Probably a
just
blog
like a
post
promise.
on Nintendo today.
Nintendo today, God bless.
They'll put
Like
it out there,
Mario-
but like internet overall.
Like you're gonna get like the online overview trailer of Mario Kart 10, and it's gonna be there that you see it's better.
Yeah.
Online 100, they have to improve. I mean, there's no ifs or buts. Like it has to be improved. There needs to be more tick rate servers. Like they need to do like I've never played Nintendo Switch Online, so I can't speak like personally. But everyone I've ever talked to says it's like the worst experience of all time. So
Oh, it's horrible.
like, yeah.
Smash
So like
Brothers Online, I was disconnecting 90% of the time.
I mean, so and I feel like Nintendo before the Switch dropped, I mean, they probably were like, okay, whatever, like kind of the back of their minds. Now I feel like when you have things that like supposedly Call of Duty's coming, or like these third parties, NBA, FIFA, Madden, these things are coming to your system. You need online. Like you're a place now where more online games are being played more and more every day, every year. Like you have to put now some type of resource into making your online actually playable. Because at some point, if you just stay the same, it's going to be a true complaint that they're going to keep people away from buying the system if they know, hey, I can't run my online games on it. You know what I mean? Like, if this thing just can't do it, then I'm not going to get the system. So, like, I think they know now it's like, hey, Call of Duty inbound, probably, like, all these other multiplayer games inbound. Fortnite, I can't imagine playing Fortnite on a Switch. Like, it, but, like, these are things,
It's horrible.
yeah, these are things they have to get up to times with and make it at least passable. It's probably not going to be perfect. It won't ever be your PlayStation, your PC, or your Xbox online. Should be, it won't. But if they can even get 80% of that, and then I don't know that does like voice chat on that. I don't know because I've never used it.
It's not on there. There's
so,
like
yeah.
a workaround for voice chat that they use, but it's like really stupid.
It's like they need to revamp all of that. And personally, far-fetched, I would rather them just, if they were going to do voice chat, I would rather them not even make their own and just throw Discord on the thing. Every console now has Discord. PC, Discord. It is the one spot that you can put on every system, and you with crossplay now being a thing, like you would hope the Switch would have crossplay. I mean, it does now. So like, all these things add up to like just throw Discord on your system and be able to speak to anyone anywhere. Like I feel like that's such a simple thing they could do, and I feel like they're not going to do it because that's Nintendo, and they'll probably make their own like voice chat thing that will be half-assed. But like, I don't know. I feel like the online and voice chat mechanics I think those are the two biggest things that are going under the radar that could actually make such a big difference in quality.
100%. Yeah. As a Nintendo fan, it's always like that tech thing, that everything else where it's like, oh, you guys are always like just behind when it comes to that stuff. But like, I know you could do more. It's just frustrating. I'm hoping they really go hard on that type of stuff.
And it's so weird because they live in a place where tech is just like everything. Like, I don't know. And it's like you have Sony right across the street and like how serious they are with their tech. And then Nintendo's just like, at the end of the day, they're the toy company. They don't care. It's like,
I mean, like they said this like 20 years ago. It's like we're not gonna be like super hyper focused on like trying to create the best thing possible. We're gonna just focus on making good games at a reasonable budget, all that type of stuff. Like, and at the end of the day, like it's hard to argue that like it didn't work out for them. Like it clearly has. But it is that like as a hardcore fan, it's like I do wish that like we were kind of like seen a bit more in that way. And at the end of the day, I want you to know, Fusion, like it's way better than it was during the Wii U days or the.
Oh
Wii
yeah,
U.
I assume. Yeah, I
like
assume.
Not even like just the way that they treat the hardcore fan base is like they treat us like adults, which is good.
But I don't. Was the Wii like the actual Wii? Was that online bad? Because people play Call of Duty on that thing.
Nintendo Wii. For specific games, it was fine. Like Mario Kart Wii had pretty good online. I know the Call of Duty games actually had decent servers, but there was a good amount of stuff like Smash Brothers mainly. Like, here's the thing, Fusion, as a Smash Brothers like hardcore fan, I played like thousands of hours of Smash Brothers. None of the onlines are good. All three online games were awful when it came to online, and it's just that thought process of like, I'm starting to think it's more of a Smash thing, but then I hear stuff of like Splatoon fans talking about it or ARMS. And it's like, no, the online for these games aren't the best either because like there's DCs, there's a lot of ping and latency. And it's like, I do think it's a situation where if you can improve that, if you improve so much of this quality of life things, it's like, I feel like that alone signifies like the Switch 2 being a better console. And I think the fact that this is such an iterative console, this is literally a 2 on the cover, tells me that they are able to kind of like be more open to a lot of these other things. They are able to kind of like experiment in that way.
Yeah.
Jack, you've been quiet. Do you have anything you want to add about NSO?
Not particularly, no.
Okay, cool. I guess we could talk now about games. Let's talk about third party first, and then we can get into the big meat and bones with the first party joints. Any big third party ports, like specifically, like I'm very bullish. I think Elden Ring is going to be like one that they very much focus on. Metaphor, I think, is very possible. Persona 3 Reload, stuff of the recent years in that Japanese centric audience that they want to try to like get onto Switch.
I think Mass Effect is a good third party port.
Yeah, that's very possible. There was also Halo the MCC that was very much leaked to high hell and water. And
Split Fiction.
Split Fiction, I feel It Takes Two is on Switch already. Yeah, Split
Yep.
Fiction. I could see like maybe a trailer for that.
It's also worth noting that they bought the porting company for Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh yeah, Shiver. That
Yeah,
that's
so
very much like a situation where WB was gonna sell them off or like close them anyways, and Nintendo kind of came in and it's like, yeah, we could use them, we'll buy them because they rarely buy studios.
well, it was actually Embracer, but you know.
Oh, I always think they're WB. I don't know why. My bad. But same
No.
difference. Embracer.
Yeah, but like, you know, say what you will about the Mortal Kombat 1 port, like I know it crashed every time you twatted someone, but like they could you know, they could do like Tekken 8, bring that over.
Street
So,
Fighter
I don't know.
6.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one. But yeah, I reckon they will be very helpful for porting
7
games.
remake. Does that show up?
FF7 remake, I think, is very,
Yeah.
very possible. And also,
I
I
just-
want to point out, Shiver did Mortal Kombat 11.
Mhm.
And it's like
you guys say-
just to point out real quick, it's like we're saying a lot of these ports are multiplayer focused. So again, just going back to like the online,
Oh yeah,
that one of the reasons they should want to improve is like all these third party ports coming over.
yeah, very big
Yeah.
one that like we already know is a thing because of the FTC and like an agreement. Call of Duty. But the
Yep.
question is, which one? You guys think they get? So, Black Ops 6 is a PS4 game. Do you think we see Black
Yeah.
Ops 6 like on this or like whatever the next Call of Duty this year is, or do they maybe go back in the well and it's like, oh, we're gonna do some PS4 ones first?
I think you do Black Ops 6 or
It makes the
Warzone.
most sense.
Warzone,
Yeah,
I could
oh,
see.
yeah, that's a good.
That's the
point.
thing.
Yeah.
I maybe I'm crazy. Maybe they never do a mainline Call of Duty, but they put Warzone on there. Maybe they're like, hey, by when we said Call of Duty, we meant Warzone, or like we meant whatever free to play thing was out there, where it's like we'll just throw Warzone on there, or and then every iteration of Warzone.
Yeah, Warzone feels like exactly what it should be. It's like free to play. It would get a lot of people on Switch, and you know that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think about Warzone. Good catch bench. Any other
Mhm.
major third party ports wise? Because 7 remake we already mentioned. I think you're gonna see a lot of Japanese ports. I'll say that. Like I can see
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 3 being shown off. Like get a trailer here. But like Japan is very, very, very Switch focused to the point where like a lot of third party developers over there are like, damn, we wish we could bring our games to Switch, or like current gen games, because they would just sell better like overall. We saw Dragon Quest 3
Mhm.
last year for Square Enix. It's like it sold way better on Switch than it did on PS5. So I think a lot of third party companies are like really, really excited to try to get some stuff on there.
I think
Mhm.
like
go ahead.
I was just saying I don't know if it could run on it. I assume it could, but like I feel like Clair Obscure would be such a good one. I feel like the Switch community would eat that up. Like,
Is that next
it's-
gen only?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but like, no offense to the game, it looks great, but I'm like, yeah, I could see this running on a Switch too. 'Cause
Yeah,
we're
I
talking
think
about
that,
PS4
like-
Pro.
Yeah, I think that could go on there. I think that would be because that turn based JRPG like look alike. Like I think something like that would do really good on the Switch too.
It makes sense, yeah.
And a lot of future Xbox games just in general, maybe at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like whenever they put out something. I was thinking Indiana Jones, but I don't know. I think Indiana
could
Jones
happen.
would like I don't know if Indiana Jones would necessarily have an audience on the Switch. Like I feel like I don't know. But yeah.
I think they want to get that game as many places as possible to kind of get the recoup on investment. And I mean, listen, I'll be real. I think we are going to see Phil Spencer in this direct. Like Phil Spencer will appear
Mhm.
and kind of talk about like, hey, we're very much supporting the Switch. Here's some games.
Or
And like
Forza
you're
on
gonna
there.
get Hi-Fi Rush, Warzone, like all these like Xbox games. Like you're gonna get a lot more stuff there.
Yeah, but it'd be far
Yeah.
funnier if they were all in the sizzle reel.
This is a big sizzle reel at the end. It's like, fuck you, Phil.
Phil Spencer's in the sizzle reel. Like just a
Yeah.
going by. It's
He
like,
like recorded a whole thing, really excited. It's like, man, I'm so passionate, and then they just throw him in a sizzle reel. Third party ports. I think we went over all the major stuff. What about new games from third parties? Like basically like a reveal or like something that's kind of be coming to the console.
Yeah. I think Square shows up in a big way, and I think they show 3 separate games that are.
Oh, I
I think they.
think Square
I
does
think-
show up for sure.
I think a new Bravely Default game, because they always announce like a JRPG at this kind of presentation. Final Fantasy IX remake shows up with just a 1 or 2 minute trailer that shows up, and then I have an absolute bombshell that I think they show up and bring it out for the Switch 2 presentation, and that's Chrono Trigger HD 2D.
Okay, you say bombshell. We predicted this before.
Okay.
But I'm with you though. I do agree with Chrono Trigger HD 2D. I think that's 100% here. Well, not 100%, but I think that shows up.
I think those are the 3 games they bring.
Yeah, no, I'm with you with Chrono Trigger. Bravely Default, that feels like almost like a later direct announcement. It's possible, but definitely seems like something where it's like, oh, this thing's already full enough. Like maybe like we can't really fit in something like a Bravely Default. And what was the third one you said? I forget.
Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah, okay. That feels like state of play. That almost feels like something PlayStation wants to get. I do think it's on Switch too, but maybe PlayStation gets the reveal. But no, those are all like very solid predictions. Honestly, and this maybe is very bullish. I think they mentioned Dragon Quest 12. I think they show like some in-engine footage of Dragon Quest 12, like maybe very like 1 minute, but basically say outright it's like this is coming to Switch 2, like day and date.
I could see that.
Yeah, I could see that as well.
And Dragon Quest is massive in Japan. This is the place to do it.
There's some like random third-party games that could come out in the second like half of this year, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably day one on Switch too. Like obviously Metal Gear is the one that everyone guesses, but like Ninja Gaiden 4, like I think that could be on Switch 2 day one. Some other ones as well.
That's possible.
Yeah, that's true.
What's that? 2D Shinobi?
Yeah, Shinobi. That's already on Switch 1 though. I think anything that's on Switch 1 most likely will.
That makes sense.
I'm trying to think. Is there any other big releases? GTA. I mean, listen. GTA. I mean, GTA 5. Maybe they do a port there, but like even then, it's like.
I mean,
GTA would be crazy.
What about the other Take-Two games? There's but there's also Mafia and Borderlands. Like maybe one of them comes to Switch 2.
Mafia, honestly, more so makes sense to me. Weirdly enough, was Borderlands on Switch at all? Like any of? Oh yeah, 1 and 2.
Yeah. They also put 3 on eventually.
Oh, they did. Okay, yeah, Borderlands then. I forgot they put 3. Yeah, if Borderlands 3 is on there. Borderlands 4. Bench said the sacred word. All right, Silk Song.
Nope.
Here's the thing. I think it's here. I think it is. My viewpoint on indie games in this presentation is you are going to get the S+ tier, like highest caliber indies, because this is a situation where this thing is so packed to the brim. It's like, okay, we want an indie spotlight, but like we can't. I don't want to say waste our time with someone like. But like, you know, like you want to get the biggest possible games that would get a splash. And to me, those 3 are Hades 2, Deltarune, and Silksong. And I think, honestly, maybe this is crazy. I think all 3 of them are here.
I don't even believe Team Cherry has a dev kit.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
There's only a few people there. Like, why would they have a dev kit?
Because they revealed Silksong at the Nintendo Direct.
That's true.
And Hollow Knight was a Switch game before it was the other consoles.
I think it's a case of like, they could port up from a Switch 1 to a Switch 2. And I don't think it would be that crazy of a port.
They send over a dev kit to a team of 3 people.
Yeah, really.
Here you guys go.
Or if anything, they could just reveal it for Switch 1, basically. Like, it could just be a Switch 1 game that runs on Switch 2.
If Silksong was going to show up, it would have been at this week's. I genuinely do not see it being there next week.
You know what's crazy is that it's like just saying Silksong won't be at a presentation is such an easy guess. At this point, it's gotten comical.
Oh, the run they're doomed. They're not even. They're saying wait till Xbox in June. They're prepared.
I will say you brought up Deltarune, and that, like, obviously that's only a few people, but that seems way more likely because he has such a good relationship with Nintendo. Like, Toby Fox makes music for Pokemon games now, so.
Yeah, and Undertale is so popular in Japan as well. It's like Deltarune would make a big splash for everyone.
I think you said Hades 2, and I think that would be the real, like, actual slam dunk. Like, if they can, especially if it's like a 1.0 announcement, like if they're showing, hey, 1.0 finally like this is the release date for 1.0 coming to everything. Like I think that would be a really good moment for them.
Yeah, 100%. Any other big third-party games? Like Capcom? Do you guys see anything? Dude, I want to believe Mega Man. I don't think this would be the place for it, but like I could see it.
So
I
go
Yeah,
on,
I
you
think
guys
you're
go
getting
first.
the elite of the elite third party stuff. I think there's going to be a big first party focus. I think you're going to have 10 to 15 minutes of third party stuff,
The elite
not
of
a
the
whole lot
elite,
of
like
time.
the elite of the elite, like Bravely Default.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to do that. I'm
Like
sorry,
Square
man.
Enix, dude.
I
So
do.
speaking of Square Enix, I do have a
Oh
prediction.
yeah,
I
go
think
for
it's
it.
here. I think Live Alive 2 is here.
No, fuck you. That doesn't
That
exist.
got canceled, I thought.
It got canceled? What? When did this happen?
Well, I thought there was like a rumor that it got canceled.
Dude,
I think it's here. I think this is it.
You're gonna break his heart if that's true.
it's a Midori. I don't trust that fucker. That was the dude that pretended to be a girl. A Japanese girl, and he's like some white guy
Hey.
from Texas.
His leaks were great though.
No. I don't believe it, man. God, I want you to know, Jack, if Live Alive 2 actually showed up, that wasn't even a thought in my mind, and now you put it in my
Now it
mind.
is.
I don't like you for that. I don't like it.
Wow.
I feel like almost it's like you have Octopath Traveler for basically the successor to Live Alive. And even though it's just substantially worse than Live Alive, it's still like, yeah, maybe that's just what they focus on instead. But God, if they did a Live Alive 2, that'd be so cool.
You know what? I'm gonna say something. I don't think it would be here, but just imagine if Playdead rose from the ashes.
Oh my God. Not even Inside, it would be the next game from them.
It
Dude,
rose from the ashes, bro, and they showed up.
I would lose it, but that feels like an Xbox thing. It feels like they have a very strong rapport with Xbox specifically. But dude, imagine if this is where they showed up.
I mean, Epic is the one publishing it, so they could just put it
yeah,
here.
that's true. Good. You guys keep bringing up games I haven't even thought about. I don't like that.
Yeah, I know. And I think, like Bink said, I think this is more likely first party stuff at the end of the day. Like, we're obviously going to get third party stuff, but I think we're thinking too far of this is going to, like, the things we're saying, we're predicting like it's going to be the Game Awards.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I think at the end of the day, we can't have our expectations that high, but I think some of these third party stuff can truly show up.
I mean, effectively though, Fuchsia, this is basically the Game Awards for Japanese developers.
Yeah.
Japan is going to be glued to their screen watching this. So.
And like I know we said in the Discord, like this is outside of the Game Awards, the biggest showcase / event since the PlayStation reveals. Like since those things 5 years ago. This is definitely the biggest one. The only problem, like, so I can understand having our hype being super up there and like it should be, but like I think less third party hype, more first party hype at the end of the day.
No, 100%.
But one last third party though. Obviously, we know Ubisoft's going to be here with like a load of ports. So what are we getting?
Well, I mean, Assassin's Creed Mirage, that was like a big leak for a while. From there, it's kind of tough. Just Dance, whatever the next Just Dance is, that's probably going to get like a sizzle reel. But also, it's like, again, though, we talked about it. This is the biggest of the biggest. Do you waste like a time slot on Just Dance? Like, no offense.
No.
But, no, actually, full offense. Fuck Just Dance.
I think after this presentation, you're going to have devs put out individual trailers and have the Switch 2 logo and stuff for the next couple months.
You're going to see the scraps. You're going to see the guys who are like, we couldn't get in. Here's our trailer.
It is going to be kind of insane how many new trailers and games will come out that can finally put Switch 2 on the trailer. Like, they can just finally put the logo on there, where it's like they haven't been able to up to this point.
It almost feels like we're going to get like a mini, like, E3 type thing, or an SGF, like, very mini version of that, where it's just everyone's like, okay, I can really start my trailer now.
A week later, the Triple I initiative, for the indie thing, and they're showing 4 the indie games. I would bet a good majority of those will be like Switch 2 games.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's a case of like people are now the floodgates are finally open, because originally I was of the mind of like, oh, maybe like developers just don't want to say they're Switch 2 because they want to try to get into the direct, but it's like it's pretty clear at this point like someone would have announced their game for Switch 2. So I think Nintendo put like a semi-muzzle, like, hey, if you're coming to Switch 2, like you can't say anything until after the April Direct.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. Do you guys think it's possible, like Ace Attorney, they get a new Ace Attorney, or is that just a smaller Direct thing? Like they don't put their time here.
I think that's like a June Direct, because I do think
Yeah.
we have a June or July Direct.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's just like I want to believe, but it's like less likely. And then Konami, I just want to shout out anything from them other than like a Metal Gear port, or like do they not have anything like brand new?
Castlevania?
My mind of Castlevania was that it was always going to be like a 3D action game, and that would be like at a state of play. But I could see if it was a Metroidvania, this would 100% be the venue where you show it off.
Mm-hmm.
You know what Nintendo fan need? They need Silent Hill 2 remake.
That's what I'm
Throw
saying.
that thing on there, sit back, and enjoy some horror on your Switch.
Imagine playing that game on like a train or something. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what weirdo?
I mean, I was about to predict Silent Hill F, to be honest. I think that was possible.
I mean, yeah, that one's more Japanese focused, and yeah, that makes more
And
sense.
it's also already multi-platform, so.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm trying to find what other big third-party developers am I missing? It's Sega. We already talked about how they're going to do a lot of ports, but like, could we see like a new Sonic game revealed anyway? Like, whatever, like the Frontier sequel is, or dare I say Persona 6? But that feels like Xbox.
No,
Yeah,
I don't think Sega shows up. I think they're mainly ports.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
PlayStation does nothing. You don't think PlayStation gives them
listen,
anything? I mean, could the recent PlayStation low stuff, even though they weren't publishing them, could that be like getting us a little bit of a taste that they're like, hey, here's this. Lego Horizon is on Switch One.
I'll ask. I mean, what is
Horizon Zero Dawn?
I was literally about to ask Fusion percentage chance of Horizon Zero Dawn in this thing.
I'd say 20%.
20. Okay, higher than I expected.
I would go 40.
I would not.
So
think
basically
it could.
half.
It feels like a thing of like, why wouldn't you put Horizon Zero Dawn? Honestly, like I know it's like, oh, it's an exclusive, but it's like it's already on PC. Like you're not
Days Gone remastered.
Yeah. Oh my god. Days Gone being the first like PlayStation game on a Switch 2 would be really funny, honestly. Like
Horizon would be really good on a Switch 2, though. I
Yeah,
think that would be a slam dunk if PlayStation wanted to give them that.
Any other third-party companies? Or are we ready to move into first-party? Because I'm trying to think of what other ones are there. I think we got everyone.
Before we talk about like new first-party games, should we talk about kind of what we think the Switch 2 editions looks like?
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually meant to mention that earlier. So there was this like thing on my Nintendo, or was it? Oh no, it was about the virtual game cards, and they specifically mentioned something about Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and Nintendo Switch 2 editions. And I'll kind of ask you guys, it's like, do you guys think this is like a situation where, oh, you put it in the system and it's like a Switch 2 game like version, like you just download that automatically? Is it Nintendo Switch Online? You have to pay money for it? Or is it a case of like a whole new like SKU? Like what's the play of this?
I think at first, within the launch year, every of their like ported things, like their upgraded games, are going to be free. And then after that, they may reconsider.
Is it going to be like specific games that they release? Like, oh, this is a Breath of Wild, but like Mario Odyssey isn't ready yet.
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be a sizzle reel with 5 to 10 Switch 1 games saying these are going to have Switch 2 versions day one. And I think they will go to the backlog, and in the next couple of years, most of the important Switch games will have Switch 2 versions. But I think the big hitters, like I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom at launch will have Switch 2 editions. Mario Odyssey isn't that far-fetched. I think Scarlet and Violet maybe. I think there's going to be a scissor reel 5 to 10 games with their titles day one for free. Because I think they want you to get a way to get people that have a Switch already onto the Switch 2 is not say, oh, you buy a Switch 2, then you have to pay $10 per game. I think Nintendo is smart on how they want to onboard people at first. Is you boot up your Switch 2, some of these games are just going to be updated immediately. No extra charge. At least for the first year.
I disagree, because I think that sets the expectation that they will always be free. If you don't do it straight away, and then introduce it later. Do you remember Sony did that? Like they had free upgrades between games and then brought in a paid version, and it kind of like go on.
People still buy it though.
They did do something with when Nintendo Switch Online was announced. It's like they had free online for a year and a half.
Yep.
Because it wasn't ready. So like this is a precedent that Nintendo has done in the past.
That is true.
I think both of you are kind of right in your own ways. Like I do think it's possible, like, hey, this is always paid for. I do think maybe I'm optimistic. I feel like there's going to be like upscaling no matter what. Where if you put a game cart in, like it will upscale like at least like a 1080p game, you'll get the 4K like DLSS, or like, and if this game ran at 30, it now runs at 60. I think you get base upgrades in that way. But like actual like versions where it's like, oh, we're actually changing the textures, we're changing like a lot of things to make them look substantially better and like things to run at a smoother frame rate. That will be a case where like you do get the Switch 2 editions, and that does sound like something like a Breath of the Wild, a Tears of the Kingdom, like certain games get them over time. I think it's a case where, hey, you could put them in and it's like, hey, do you want to download the Switch 2 edition? And it's $20. It would be $10, but this is, you got to do the Switch tax. So $20 on the eShop, or if you have Nintendo Switch Online, you just get it automatically.
And I do think like a good example for like what you were saying with things are just going to be updated is like the Xenoblade trilogy. They all like are maxed out at a higher resolution than they can run. Like Xenoblade 2 especially. Like that should theoretically just be a higher resolution because more power.
No, I mean that's a thing. We also saw that thing from a couple weeks ago about Xenoblade Chronicles X and how it basically had a hidden 60 FPS mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Switch 2 editions. I mean, that's one that I'm really curious of how much they touch on this direct. I do think it's something they discuss though. I mean, I think we're ready to move into the big meat of this, the first party lineup. Let's start with what's already announced. Pokemon Legends ZA. Do they even like mention it?
I think they could
probably
get
not.
a date.
Maybe. I think there's a case of like, it almost felt like that's the Pokemon company's thing to market. And it's like maybe a sizzle reel they expect. Like, hey, here's Legends ZA.
I will say if they hadn't shown it this week, I would have expected it. But the fact they've just had a trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Metroid Prime 4. We just got it. Jack, we kind of discussed this already, but like Jack, you're of the mind that this doesn't show up at the Switch 2 Direct. I think it does. I think Bench, you also said that you think it is?
I think it shows up in like a Switch 2 edition type form, not a new gameplay trailer.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I think. With a date, I'm thinking.
I do think it does show up. I just don't think it's going to be a big showing for it, and I think that's why it was shown this week.
No, that's fair. I think it's a case of like you will get a release date though. I am of the mind like they were saving the release date for this because they want to try to get as many eyes as possible. And then we move into Mario Kart. How much time do they spend on this game? Is this like they're gonna spend a like chunk of it, like 5 to 10 minutes on this game, like really discussing it?
4 to 5. I don't think you go over 5 minutes.
Yeah, for any one game, yeah.
Because I also think they're gonna, like they said, Nintendo Today, they're gonna show like little updates and stuff. I think you can milk more these games on Nintendo Today and stuff. Is what they
like
plan
new
to do.
characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think this is the game that opens the show.
Oh, really?
I know it's already been announced, but it is the game for Switch 2, I think. So
Gonna open with Mario filling his gas tank at a gas station.
That'd be so funny. I do love that idea of like what they could do with this game. I'm so curious about like how do you kind of present this game? Like I feel like they really want to show off the new stuff, and we talked about it on the Mario Kart retrospective, but we expect there to be like kind of a full-on single player, like open world type joint.
Well, I mean, Bench, you weren't there for the Mario Kart thing, so like, what are your expectations for this?
I mean, I know some people think it's going to be a Forza Horizon thing with the campaign. I can't say
People are dumb.
I can't say I agree as much as cool as it would be, but I mean, I think it will have some sort of mode that's not just the Grand Prix, because I think they want to like make it better, because you're going to be able to play it deluxe on the Switch, so they need to be a little different. I don't know
With
what
the
that
medal.
looks like, but I think, I mean, there's 24 racers at a time, and I mean, there's gonna be a lot of characters in this game, I think. Because, I mean, you're gonna have 24 racers each race, so you gotta at least have 24 characters, and I think, thinking about it, probably at least double that. So I think there's gonna be a lot of characters. And I'm
Agreed.
not sure if they gotta put Link in this game, man. They can't
Don't
leave
put
him in
Link.
8 Deluxe.
I think most 8 Deluxe characters are going to come back in 9. Or 10.
Yeah,
Oh, God. I said 9 like a heathen.
yeah.
Yeah, Mario Kart, I think that's going to get a big focus. Actually discussing the games themselves, I have the entertainment production groups, but I'm just going to start with like one that I think we all very much expect to be showing up here, which is production group number 8, EPD Tokyo, does the 3D Mario games. I mean, we all expect Mario to be here, but like, to what capacity is this 3D game? And also, when do we get a date? Like, when do you expect this game to come out?
I mean, I think this opens the show. I think you open with 3D Mario, and it's not. I'd be disappointed if it was an Odyssey sequel. I think we all would be a little disappointed. So I
don't
do think
it's
this
an
is
Odyssey
something.
sequel. It's been
I
this
think
long.
this. Yeah, and I'm not sure like how visually they go with it, but I think it's going to be pretty good looking. And I think it's like a 3-minute trailer, and I think we get a date.
Yeah, maybe like showing off the tone, the vibe, like what they're very much doing with this
Mm-hmm.
game to differentiate it from the other 3D Mario games.
Yeah.
I've always been of the mind that I think this one's going to involve Donkey Kong in some way. Like, Donkey Kong is going to be like, oh, they go to Donkey Kong Island. I kind of did see this idea of like, it's going to be like a Bowser's Fury game where you have this big world and like you basically have miniature levels within them that you can explore. And I think it's going to go take you to places like the Desert Kingdom, the what was it, Sarasha Land from Super Mario Land, like something like that. And then it's like, oh, here's DK Jungle, and like it's like kind of a joint where like, oh, you can play as Donkey Kong. Like I think something like that could be very possible.
I think what we get here all depends on whether there is a June Direct. Because if there is a June Direct, why would you give a deep dive here? Why wouldn't you just tease it?
Oh yeah, that's why I think this is very much like a 3-minute trailer, kind of like what we got with the original Odyssey joint. But like we're gonna see a lot of what I mentioned. At least that's my prediction. But I do agree that June Direct would go very hard on this game.
Yeah, like the date and everything. I feel like you'd save it for then, if there is a June Direct, obviously. So I don't particularly know. I think this would be. I think we see it, but whether it might just be a teaser rather than a full trailer.
Yeah, and I do think at the very least, maybe it doesn't get a date, but like I think you get a holiday window, and I'm seeing this as like kind of their big like October like holiday game.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another game that comes out in October we'll get into. But yeah, that's 3D Mario. I'm going to go through the EPDs. EPD 1 and 2 are just producers, production groups. Like, they get them there. EPD 3 is Zelda. That's the mainline Zelda games. Any possibility, like, we just got Tears of the Kingdom, but do you think we get anything Zelda in this thing? Because I have one big prediction.
I think we get
I
the
hope
ports
not.
in their August.
What'd you say, Mitch?
The 2 ports that have been rumored forever. I think we get them in August.
I'm of the mind, and this is a big heavy prediction. I don't know how you guys think, but this is one that like almost got willed into existence because Kind of Funny keeps mentioning it. I think Ocarina of Time remake gets shown here.
No, surely not.
It's a teaser. It's a teaser. It doesn't even have a date, but they show like Ocarina of Time remake. I think I'm of the mind. I think it exists.
It'd be really cool. Do you think the remake is a 1-to-1 remake or a reimagining? Because they've done the remake before. Do they like open up Ocarina of Time in a bigger way?
I think it won't be to the point of like 7 remake where it's effectively like multiple parts or anything, or even like really like changing story or anything. But I think it's like Forest Temple will be bigger, or like Saria's Woods, like Lost Woods, like there is like a different way where you go through it. Like it'll be the case where like the game is changed up, but not like to a fundamental degree where it's completely different. This will be a new type of Ocarina of Time though.
Not open world, but do you think they open it up in a way that there's more exploration, it's more open,
I could
kind of bigger?
I could see a situation where there's not really a set dungeon order. and you can kind of
Yeah.
get, which is already the original Ocarina of Time, but there's certain ones you have to change up, and it's like maybe you just go full out of like everything.
Mhm.
Maybe everything I'm saying right now, Jack is like pissed off.
Yeah, I'm furious. I mean, what the fuck? You leave that game alone. I
But Jack, you get 2 Ocarina of Times. Think of it like that. It's 2 cakes.
just make it prettier. I don't need.
Yeah,
I
but
don't change the game.
if it sucks, if you don't like it, you still have the original though. There you go.
Hmm.
You got see? Can't argue. They didn't take away the original game. Like we're removing your memories.
Just do what they did with the 3DS version. Just make it prettier. I think I don't see. Look, it is entirely possible they tease the next mainline Zelda game. I hope they don't, but they might.
I mean, it is 2 years after Tears of the Kingdom, which was the same amount of time from Breath of the Wild to the reveal of. They're saying they're making a sequel, so it's possible.
Yeah, but that's a 2030 game. Don't show it now.
Yeah, agreed. It's not ready.
Like,
Uh,
the ports are the most logical thing. They could
Yeah.
do another They could do another Hyrule Warriors. I don't know if they will, but I think the ports are the.
Speed it up a bit. Production Group 4, they do the experimental games, mainly stuff like 1-2 Switch, Ring Fit. And I guess that brings up the idea of like, do you guys think there's going to be like some type of at launch, like, hey, here's like a Mario Paint or something to kind of show off the mouse functionality of the Switch 2?
I
See
have
that,
a. Sorry, you go first, Bunch.
I was going to say that MMO type thing.
Oh, you think that's like a mouse functionality thing?
Maybe.
Well, we know it's that team that's doing the what's it called?
Mhm.
The MMO game. I feel like that game's still early. Or at least like early enough to not be this year. But it's possible.
I have another prediction for these guys. I think we're getting a sequel to Nintendo Switch Sports.
Oh, you think it's ready?
I think it's shown, and
Okay,
I think it could even be this year.
I mean, that is something that could really bolster like the casual audience to want to like go jump in on this thing, because Switch Sports, if you don't know, that game sold way better than it had any right to. That's possible. That's actually a good prediction. I didn't think about Switch Sports. What would it be? Switch Sports 2? Switch 2 Sports?
Switch Sports Resort, maybe really go into that.
Yeah, get rid of those ugly ass like character models. Go back to Mii's. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into Production Group 5, which is Animal Crossing and Splatoon. I think, to me, Splatoon, obviously, no. I feel like Animal Crossing, that's not ready. Those games take a long time.
That's like a direct type thing late this year.
And that's like 2020.
That's a year, like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I do definitely think Animal Crossing's next. Like, they could do another Splatoon, and it would be huge, but would it be as huge as Animal Crossing? You certainly don't think so.
Production Group 6 is another producer studio. 7 is co-develops 2D Metroid with Mercury Steam. I don't really think 2D Metroid's ready yet. You don't want to take away from Metroid Prime 4, so not much to say there. We already talked about EPD 8, and 9 is Mario Kart. We already talked about. And then 10 is 2D Mario and Pikmin. Pikmin, we just got the greatest thing on God's green earth. And we already got Super Mario Brothers Wonder. So they've been busy. I don't really think they show anything there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also external studios. Do you guys think we see Next Level games? Next Level, they do Mario Strikers and Luigi's Mansion. Is there a chance of a Luigi's Mansion 4?
I just don't think. Maybe you show that here. It could be this year, but I think it's this year or next year it releases.
Don't you have it on your
Yeah.
phone?
Oh yeah, I do. I do think it's a thing though.
I do agree.
I think it's next year. I think if you have like Animal Crossing and Luigi's Mansion 4 in 2026, that's an amazing year 2 lineup.
Oh yeah, especially with Smash Brothers, right? Which I mean, we'll bring up now. Like Sakurai is his own company. Is there anything Sakurai wise? Kid Icarus Uprising HD possibly, or maybe what's it called? A tease of Smash.
It's Smash Ultimate Deluxe. You are not getting a new Smash.
I think Smash is one of the games that's updated day one.
I agree with that. Kid Icarus Uprising HD. I want to believe especially with the mouse functionality. But that feels like a direct thing where you don't need to do
Mhm.
it here.
One
Nintendo.
of the
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. No, I was gonna say one of the like external thing that I could be interesting. Astral Chain 2.
Oh, you think that's something that
They
exists?
bought the IP, didn't they?
They bought the IP. I know the director left and he's moved on to Clovers now, but I don't know. I just think like I don't think we're gonna get a new Bayonetta for the Switch 2. I kind of think that the
Yeah,
IP
the
is gonna
series is
sit for a
gone.
little bit. But I don't know. Astral Chain has a lot of potential, and I do think it would be an amazing like if you have an Astral Chain but in 60 frames per second, just imagine it.
Dude, I want to. I won't play Astral Chain until it's 60 FPS. I could see Astral Chain 2 kind of being something they try to show off and get excited for. Monolith. Monolith, I mean, they just did
Yep.
Xenoblade Chronicles X literally like a week ago.
Well, my prediction is they show up and have a game that releases this year.
This year?
Wait, what's that?
I think
Was Monolith the one making that? I'm gonna sound crazy. That like we've only seen concept art photo. It was like an RPG or something.
they do
when
many
was
of
this?
those.
No, it was like I
Yeah.
swear it was like a little mushroom or something. I
No.
have no idea if I could tell you.
Oh, you're thinking of Game Freak with Project Bloom.
Oh, Game Freak maybe? Maybe it was Game Freak.
The Monolith
Oh, is that
has
the?
one of my predictions actually. Monolith's long rumored new IP shows up this year with a December release date. Well, it doesn't get
See,
dated, but it's like 2025.
They do like showing up in the month of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely thought that it would be this year until Xenoblade X released. It
That's
just
such.
seems
It's
like
not
a lot.
knowing that X is definitely a smaller scale project than even Definitive Edition was. I don't know. I think you could have that new IP show up this year. But if it doesn't show up this year, I still think it gets revealed at this direct, and it could be first half next year. But I think it shows up.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely revealed, I think.
I'm not of the mind that what's it called? It's a new game from or like their new game would release this year, but I do think like next year, like early, it's possible. And a reveal is very, very likely. I think that's they like to show up at these type of things. And also Fusion, yeah, it was the
Yeah,
what's
the Game
it called?
Freak.
Game. Yeah.
Maybe that could show up, dude. Who knows?
that one was Private Division. That's not
Yeah.
Nintendo, which is weird. And also, I just learned here, Monolith helped with art design of Pikmin 3. Hell yeah, man! You know what? I always talk shit about them. Maybe they do. Maybe they are good at doing things. I want to. Any other things you guys want to bring up, like first party wise, that is very possible.
See, I want to guess a Mario RPG, but I don't think we're getting one of them for a while because we just had 3 new ones.
I mean, Paper Mario, like it has been a while since that, and Intelligent Systems. I didn't even bring them up yet. They feel like there's a lot of stuff that's cooking for them. Like they have a Fire Emblem remake, probably a new Fire Emblem game, like in general, and then they also have like Paper Mario, which is very likely as well. Like, anything from Intelligent Systems in that regard?
I think Fire Emblem shows up and is dated for this year. Probably maybe July.
The remake?
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually like July for the Fire Emblem games. That makes sense.
Yeah, a month after the Switch 2 comes out, and then have it for both. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, because I've been like craving a Fire Emblem game. I'm like, hell yeah, give me
Same.
something.
So here's a Hopium one. I don't think it will be there, but I'd love it. Kirby and the Forgotten Land 2.
Oh, dude, yeah, I wanted to bring this up.
It's been 3 years.
I think it is around the time where you at least reveal it.
But if we're getting Planet Robobot, do you think they announce both?
I think Planet Robobot is something they reveal later in a direct, and they just
They
say,
can
"Hey,
tweet
it's
Planet
coming."
Robobot.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's something small. So then they tweet
Nintendo
that
today announced it.
What do you call that? A today? They're gonna Nintendo today it. But I don't know. Yeah, something like a Forgotten Land 2 getting a little teaser would be really awesome.
Mhm.
And then any other game developers that were missing? I already talked about
I'm a lot.
Smash.
If you want to talk about Mario Sports,
Baseball.
Baseball, yeah. Baseball could show up here. They get Shohei Ohtani on stage. Get people excited to see him.
Mario Tennis was a long time ago now. That was 2018, so that's probably next up.
Mhm.
I want to bring up the idea of like kind of a big revival. I'll bring up 3 franchises in particular that I think are all kind of in the train of revival, and ask you guys like which one is the most likely. F-Zero, Star Fox, and then Mother. Mother would be a remake, but still, like revival wise. Do you think
Can I pick
any of
option?
those 3 have a chance?
Can I pick option 4 and say Golden Sun?
God, you
Because I
Golden
think
Sun fans. Respect. I respect it.
I think that's more likely than the other 3, to be honest. But
I
of the
can
ones you mentioned, F-Zero.
I think of the ones you mentioned, it would be Mother. The
Yeah, I
remake.
must have mind like doing a Mother remake as possible, like a Earthbound remake specifically. Though, I mean, honestly though, Star Fox has been a while. They did not release anything Star Fox this generation. I do think it's very likely we'd get a teaser.
I
But I
don't
mean,
know.
that
Zero is so bad.
Zero was so awful. It is that thing though. It's like I almost think Nintendo's like Miyamoto has reverence for that character. Like he designed that character. He has a lot of love for Star Fox. So I don't think they want to just let it die.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? What was I just mentioned? Oh, Golden Sun. I think my thing, Jack, with Golden Sun is like that's Camelot, and to me, Camelot's like they're in the Mario Sports Mines for.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think they do it, but I think it comes
okay.
back.
I have a little game. An over under
Oh,
on
cute.
the amount of first party games that are released this year. Over 6
Okay.
or under 6.
Over,
6.
but
Oh, yeah, over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of games.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think it's
Nintendo.
over.
yeah,
They
but we've
usually-
already had like 3. So they haven't
Oh,
been
well,
very big.
okay.
We've had-
Well, I'm not counting the current ones. I'm talking about.
Yes, he's talking about from June and after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think over. Yeah, because they're gonna have a lot of stuff for launch.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna have like 1 or 2 games, especially. Or 2 to
So you're
3.
saying
Yeah.
7. There'll be 7 games. From June to the end of the year, there'll be 7 first party games.
I don't think
Yeah, but if
8's
you
out of the
also count
question.
the ones that, if you also count the ones that are going to be on Switch 1, there's going to be like Fire Emblem and if there is Planet Robobot, that's 2. 2 at launch, that's 4. And then there's probably 3 between then and the end of the year.
That's
I
what I
think you
mean.
get a
And
game a month. At
exactly,
least.
Nintendo's usually very much a game a month esque company.
I don't think we get a game a month, but I do think the games that we do get are bigger.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What's the next one, Bench? For over under? Or was that it?
That was it.
That's where the game ended. The short-lived game.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, okay. I was like, ooh, he has a lot more. I was like, yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay, I'll do one. I've got a list of some franchises. I won't read them all, but just whether you think they'll appear. So,
Percentage.
so do you think we get a new Yoshi game?
Goodfield just released a game. That's like a 10%.
Yeah. 1-2 Switch sequel.
No.
Negative
Prequel.
5,000. Like
Wow.
as little as humanly possible.
A
You
new
can't
Donkey
bring
Kong.
it back. Oh, Donkey Kong? I actually think that's very likely. I think that's like 50%.
I don't think that's here.
You know,
Okay.
okay. That's fair.
A new WarioWare or Wario game in general.
Wario's not ready. They just got a new one. Like
I agree.
2023.
Famicom Detective Club.
Let me tell you, man. That's a series. They literally just got one, Jack.
Yeah, see, a lot of these have just got, so I'm like, it's pointless
Yeah.
me even reading these ones. Where was the other one that I was going to read? Yeah, Mario Party they've just released, but do you think they have any like party game adjacent thing, like Clubhouse games, that kind of thing level?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think ready yet. Maybe they like do a small thing, but even then, it's like it's hard to imagine.
Fair enough. I'll leave it there because the rest are even more boring.
Final question of this very long discussion. A great talk all around, though. What do you guys think the launch lineup will be? Kind of predict just like what games are going to be there at launch, including third party and whatever.
Metroid,
Mm-hmm.
Mario Kart, Dragon Quest,
1 and
Persona
2.
Metaphor, yeah,
Okay.
and then Final Fantasy VII maybe.
Okay.
Honestly, it wouldn't even shock me if they do Fire Emblem at launch too. That's not
Yeah, I
impossible.
feel like that's almost like you kind of buried that game. You might as well wait a little bit.
Yeah.
What about you, Fusion? You have a prediction of a launch lineup?
I would say I think Metroid, Mario Kart. That's the thing. It will be one of the Mario's. I would assume Mario Kart because
Yeah,
they've already teased
it.
it. Yeah, and like like a 3D Mario is just more of a like put that on holiday, boost your Switch sales, and that thing more of like a obviously it doesn't nothing needs to compete against GTA because Mario will sell because Mario, but like you're more likely to get a spotlight when you release a brand new 3D Mario later in the year. So I'll say Mario Kart, Metroid. I don't even.
Third-party ports. You think a big
Yeah,
third-party presence?
that's what I'm thinking. I see. I truly believe if Silksong's here, I think it's also because it will be a launch title.
Okay, I see that too. I'm very much of that mind too.
But but that's like you can't predict that. Like,
Never predict
I can't sit here and predict. I think Hades 2 could have a legit shot though.
Yeah,
To be a launch title with this 1.0 Hades 2.
big one.
I guess the ports. I guess I could see Persona. I think maybe I'm crazy. I feel like 3 Reload has a better chance than Metaphor, but I could see both.
3 Reload has a much better chance because it's just been a bit longer since that.
Yeah, I could see 3 Reload, and they'll just throw a bunch of other. I mean, how big do you think the launch lineup would truly be?
I forget exactly. I think the original Switch launch lineup was like 8 or 9 games, but that's when people didn't really believe in it. I think now that there's going to be a lot more third parties kind of like pushing each other over to try to get into that day one lineup. I think I could see as big as like eShop obviously is like a different story, but like retail store copy games, I could see about 15 to 20. I think you're going to get a lot of ports, a lot of like random like third parties trying to get something into that day one launch lineup.
This is really random.
You go ahead.
It's really random, but do you think the Nintendo Switch 2 physical cases will look that much different? Like you think they'll go different color or like any?
I think the size will be the same, but I could see them doing a different color. Not even see them. Right. I think they will do a different color just to differentiate.
What color do you think they'll do?
Maybe like a shade of red. Dude, I've always been of the mind of like I would like them to try black or white. Like that's a crazy thought, but like a black like Switch logo kind of sounds metal. But it's also like they didn't really do that in the reveal. That almost feels like it's like if you're gonna change the color substantially, I think maybe at least like add a hint of color somewhere on the case to signify like this is a Switch 2 game.
Yeah.
And how many Switch 2 edition games do you think we get at launch?
At launch edition, I would say like I'm of the mind that like almost probably like 3 or 4. I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for sure.
Yeah.
I think Breath of the Wild. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom just yet.
I'd be upset about Tears of the Kingdom. Do you think we get like on top of the games we get or new games we're getting? Do you think like every month they could drop a new edition game?
I could
see that would be smart. Yeah.
You get just monthly drops like they do that with NSO. It's like, hey, NSO update plus like here's the what's it called? The Nintendo thing.
Yeah.
Or Switch 2 edition. Jeez, my brain. Jack, what do you think the launch lineup's going to look like?
I don't think it's going to be as front-loaded as everyone's sort of guessing, because I think they will space them out a lot more. Mm-hmm. But I do. Obviously, Mario Kart. Mario Kart's the big launch game. We all kind of guessed that. Metroid, at this point, it's got to be a launch game. And then I think that's it for first-party boxed Nintendo games. Like I think there'll be like Breath of the Wild, better version, and then like a month later, maybe Smash Ultimate Deluxe, and then like slowly pace them out. In terms of third party, I think there'll just be so many that it'll be kind of uninteresting.
It just kind of overlaps.
Yeah, so like some big ones. I think there'll be a big Xbox game. I think maybe like Sea of Thieves or Hi-Fi Rush. I think Sea of Thieves makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And then like other big games like Elden Ring will obviously be there.
I think for sure Elden Ring's in that launch lineup.
Yeah. Apart from that, I think, like the Ubisoft games, there might be like a bundle of Mario and Rabbids games, the two games just bundled together in one cartridge and be like, yeah, this is the Switch 2 version.
Oh yeah. Something Ubisoft
But
just try to get some money off those games.
yeah, so apart from that, like I'm not expecting much day one because I think they will like slowly release them and then by the holiday they'll have so many games that we'll be drowning in them.
Most people are there for Mario Kart, and then you get like a lot more people there, like with Metroid, and then it splinters out from there.
Yeah.
For me, like I am of the mind, I'm with you, all of you. Mario Kart and Metroid feel like easy day ones. From there, I think you're gonna get a Mario Paint-esque game. That's like kind of like a digital only, like, hey, here's something to kind of show off like how the Switch mouse works.
Pack-in?
And then pack it. Well, I mean, like I say, like I think it's yeah, I think it is a pack-in. Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna throw it in. I think it's not a box, but like it's something that comes preloaded onto your Switch too. Kind of like Astro's Playroom. And then from there, I think Elden Ring for sure is gonna be a port. Dragon Quest 1+2, that makes sense. And then Persona 3 Reload. And then just a bunch of like splintered off like ports, something like Just Dance and random Ubisoft stuff like Mirage. But yeah, that's kind of my viewpoint. Like just a lot of like very first party focused. But yeah.
I do have one more that I meant to throw in. Instead of Mario Paint, what if we got an Art Academy?
Oh, Art Academy would be really cool. That would
Just
make sense
because
also as a launch
Just because
game.
we already have a lot of Mario here. We have like Mario
Yeah.
3D Mario this year, Mario Kart this year. I think something like
Well,
Art Academy would
yeah, but it's also
make.
like it's Mario. It sells off the name alone. That's my thing.
Yeah, but like in the Wii U era where we got like 10 Mario games a year, and it started to feel a bit. It
Oh
didn't
yeah,
feel
no,
as special, so
I'm
I
with
think
you.
it'd just be cool.
I think my thing is almost like they kind of know how strong the IP brand of Mario is, and they've just done a better job of like facilitating, making sure like it's not Wii U era of just like you're only getting Mario. Like they have other games. Like that's why Metroid's gonna be there. It's like, hey, here's your hardcore focus game, and then you have your Mario Kart. But yeah, any very last like Switch 2 predictions, hopes, dreams, or we're good to go off of from this very long topic, I might add.
I just hope it's everything we want. I
Yeah.
hope it smooth launch. Hope we don't have a stock issues. Hopefully scalpers aren't that annoying. I hope at the end of the day it's going to be worth the upgrade. I think it will be. The no OLED kind of sucks, but like whatever, we'll get over it. I hope the power increase and maybe the DLSS and whatever else truly shows like a performance upgrade that like people have been asking for forever now.
Right there with you, man. All right. Well, that's the Switch 2, man. Very, very excited for that presentation. Just 5 days away. Let's get into what we've been playing now. We've been talking a long time, so I guess you guys don't need to talk too much because we already talked a good amount about Split Fiction and then Shadows. But if you guys, Jack, if you want to update us on Shadows, Fusion, update on Split Fiction.
Yeah,
Fusion, you wanna go
I'll
first?
I'll knock out Split Fiction real quick. Because I think, yeah, in the last podcast I didn't roll credits yet. I was like 2 hours in. Last weekend put a solid 8 hour day in with me and my buddy. Finally, we just sat down. We said, okay, we're just gonna beat this game. It didn't really end up that way, but like we just times perfectly lined up. We got deep, and it was like midnight, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're near the end. Like this feels like the end of the game, and he's like, okay, let's just do it. Yeah, that game's awesome. That game is very, very special. I truthfully think it has a chance to win Game of the Year later this year. I think it's a bona fide. It will be nominated. Like this would have to be the greatest year ever for gaming if this game didn't get nominated come December for TGA. I think it's that good. It's that special. I think it's Hazelight's best work. Everyone should play it by the end of the year, just because I think it's not super long and it's just fun from the beginning to end. I think is about as close as perfect as a co-op game as you're ever going to play.
That sounds awesome, man. I mean, God, I really want to get to it, but it's just like there's so much shit out right now. It's like it's hard to find the time in between me playing Sonic Colors for some fucking reason. But like I do really, really want to get to it. You and Bob have really been beating the drum on this game.
It's so good. Bop's a hater though. He wants me to admit that it's better than Astrobot, and it's not.
Oh my
But he
god.
just,
He always has to make it weird, man.
I
It's like,
know,
what do you
dude. He
need?
just always brings it back to Astrobot. But yeah, it's really really good. Just like I said, from the start to the beginning, I think it is Hazelight's best work. I had a few minor complaints that I won't get into here because I don't want to spoil anything. But like, it is really really special, and I would be shocked if it wasn't in my personal top 3 or top 5 at the very least at the end of the year.
That's incredible. That's awesome, man. Then we move into Shadows. You actually, Fusion and Jack have both been playing with this game.
Yeah, I'll go real quick again because I'm not super far in still. I think I just hit 9 hours earlier this morning. For a few days there, I was thinking about quitting it. I don't know if it was just the high from Split Fiction because I started Shadows up, only got like 2 hours in, and then I had that super long Split Fictions session, and I was like, dude, this game's just so good. Then when I went back to Shadows and was just exploring the open world that finally opened up, I just wasn't feeling it in the moment. And then I took a 2-day break, played this little indie called Guns of Fury, which is like Metal Slug meets Metroidvania. Like, I only got like 3 hours in. I only played it because shout out Colin. He randomly gifted it to me on Steam. He's like, I need you to play this game and let me know if it's good or not. I was like, okay. Loaded that up, played like 3 hours, and like got a few bosses in. I will return to it at some point probably this year, but like it wasn't hitting at all. But I just used it as like I'm gonna take a break from Shadows. Just like let me take a refresher. Went back into Shadows last night finally after a few days, and I really enjoyed my time going back to it. It's been a lot better, a lot more smooth playing it yesterday and this morning. So I'm hoping to continue with it. I still have some gripes, but like it's opening up, and at the end of the day, like the combat's getting better and the stealth as I'm unlocking more upgrades is getting better. And I think like the gameplay loop is good enough that I can continue until I see credits, hopefully.
That's awesome, man. What about you, Jack? You've been playing a lot of this game.
I have, yeah. Don't know how long because PlayStation and the game can't make up their mind. So I think I'm about 25, 30 hours in.
I always just go off the game because the PlayStation thing is weird.
Yeah, Fusion and I were discussing it. Like, I have no idea. So I think I'm about 25 hours in. I'm enjoying it still, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't still be playing it. It's just getting better as I go. To be honest, unlocking Yasuke was great. By the time I got him, I was like, yeah, there's no chance I'll play as him. And then when I got him, it's like, oh no, this is a lot of fun. I'm kind of tuning out of the story a little bit. It's not that engaging, but I'm enjoying the.
Are the characters uninteresting? Is just the overall plot line like not grabbing you at all?
Just a lot of the plot, to be honest. Like every time there's a cutscene playing, I'm finding myself zoning out a little bit. So, but the actual playing of the levels is a lot of fun. So, I can't criticize it too much. Still stunning game. Like the seasons are just making it that much better. It's weird because the seasons. I feel like the seasons change quite often. So it's just like you start thinking, hey, how many years have actually passed since the start of this story? This is a bit weird. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it.
That's incredible, man. Very interested to see how you guys feel about it, especially by when you beat it, because it always feels like with Assassin's Creed games, every time I ask people, it's like, how are you enjoying it? Like 5 or 10 hours in, they're like, oh, dude, I'm loving it. And then by the end, they're like, I hate this game. I never want to think about this game ever again.
That's my thing, and I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Obviously I'm early, so I'm not, and I haven't done like a lot of like the main story has not progressed a lot right now, but I do tend to find myself, like Jack said, when a cutscene comes up, I tend to find myself being on my phone way more than I want to. Like a cutscene comes up, I'm like, let me scroll Twitter. I'm like that. Like when that happens, you know the story isn't. Yeah, it's not hitting where you're supposed to. Even though like I haven't hated it, and like some of the moments I'm like, okay, let me put my phone down and actually pay attention. But that's never a good sign when like a cutscene shows up and you're like, well, Twitter time. Like,
yeah.
especially as someone like me who like mainly plays the games for the stories, it's like that's a little annoying. And they do some. I'm kind of annoyed by this whole flashback sequence thing, but yeah.
I get it. That's interesting. I'm definitely very excited to hear you guys' thoughts later on. Bench. I want to get you off the bench. Talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. You played a bit more of it. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm about 30 hours in now, and I'm really enjoying it. I just got the mech 30 hours in, so I mean I'm
that's
kind
not
of
that long. I thought it was like
yeah.
50 from what I was
Like
reading.
you don't fly until you're like 50
Oh no,
hours
okay,
in.
there it is. Okay. So
But the gameplay with the mech is so far has been pretty cool, and exploration being just in a bigger thing that can jump pretty high has been interesting. On top of just exploration, this game has been great. And I've only been to 3 out of the 5 continents, and I haven't explored 2 of them much. 2 of the ones that I have explored much. So I'm overall enjoying it. The story is pretty good. It's just not like Xenoblade great, but I'm still enjoying it, and it's getting me along, and seeing all these, just this world has been very cool.
That's awesome, man. You think this is like, where would this place like? Where obviously you're still early on, but like, where do you think this would place on like your overall rankings? Like, are you enjoying it any more than the other games so far?
It's not as good as any of the other 3 so far, but I think it's just so different that it's hard to compare them because, well, it has a story that did have a really cool twist so far. Like, it's much more side content focused, exploration focused, open world focused, and that's been fun, but also, like, it's so daunting of a game. Like, the game's absolutely massive.
That's awesome. It's like 10 times the size of Skyrim, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Are you proud that you dropped GTA 5 for it, or?
I mean, I'm kind of swamped because I hope to. Shout out Xbox, please send me a Indiana Jones code. I'd like to play that game.
I'm
But
getting
yeah,
the code, buddy.
yeah, sure you are, buddy.
I'm getting the code, guys.
But yeah, I'm just in a weird position of I have so many games that I want to play, but I'm trying to laser in on Xenoblade, and every time I sit down to play Xenoblade, it doesn't feel like I've made much progress because of how big of a game it is.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. But that's everything we've been playing. That's everything we talked about. Boys, we had a very long episode. Honestly, the longest Slice of Gaming episode in a while. It feels like the main podcast has been kind of short lately because of news, but like, I mean, next week I imagine we're gonna get very, very long. I promise you. So
Yep.
I'm very, very excited. Cannot wait for the Switch 2 Direct. Boys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me, Fusion, Jack, Bench. If you guys want to find us, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever your favorite podcasts are. We're on there. Please check us out on Twitter and Blue Sky at A Slice of Gaming, and also like the podcast on YouTube. With that, I think we're all good. Say good night, everybody.
Guys, will Silksong into existence? 5 days.
Silk
Nope.
song.
Silk song.
Do a ritual if you have to. Put the pentagram down.